Toyola, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Toyolo. I kind of just make things happen. This is the tournament that we put together over on DGG. Got a bunch of my friends together, a lot of people who claim to be able to debate pretty well, and then I put a cash prize in front of them. It's $1,200, winner take all. There is no second prize. If you lose in the first round, I'm going to shame you worse than if you lose in the last. And I really want to see whose money is where their mouth is now.
Okay. I'm excited too. All right, so why don't we start pulling people in? Okay, so the first people are we'll pull in Free.
Yeah, we're gonna get Free to moderate it, and then we have Live Free and Park who are going to debate. Park is in favor of a voting test, like a test that you would have to place upon the population before they could vote, and Live Free is going to be attacking that position.
Okay, all right. So excited to have you guys. Okay, yeah. So to be clear, what's going to happen is we're going to have two individuals debate. These will be one-on-one matches, right? A series of one-on-ones, and we'll have five judges, who will figure out who wins. I'll be one of those judges. Our friend Free, yeah, Toyo is another judge right here. Our friend Free here is going to be moderating. Free, introduce yourself to community.
What's happening? It's your boy Free. 1/3 of the things people don't say podcast. We're on Spotify. Check us out. How y'all doing?
Okay, fantastic. Yeah. Live Free. And Park. Do you guys have cameras?
Yeah, we do. I do.
Yeah. If you could turn on.
Not connected, unfortunately.
If it could turn on, Park.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Hooray. Hi.
Hey.
Okay. Nice to meet you. All right.
Good to meet you too.
Yeah. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, starting with me. Yeah. My name is Park. I'm starting a Twitch channel called Parasocial Park. I started doing debate in DGG maybe 2 or 3 months ago. It's been a lot of fun, and I've learned a lot.
Okay, fantastic. And Live Free.
Hi, my name is Live Free. I like to debate people online in my spare time, and like to yell at people sometimes. Depends on how the day is going.
That's fun. That's absolutely fantastic. All right. Why don't you get started? Oh, Toyo, before we do that, let me explain how the debates will work, like the structure of them all.
Yeah, okay, so it's going to be an hour debate-ish, give or take, a couple minutes if we need to. You're going to be broken down into thirds. The first third, Free, is going to be really, really structured with it. No one's going to be interrupting. No one's going to be ranting. There's not going to be any kind of tomfoolery, any fuckery. And then the second third is going to be really relaxed. And then the final is going to be hopefully like as structured as a normal conversation. Free's only going to vibe, moderate it, and if we have to, right? And of course, you and I can step in if anything gets too crazy.
Okay. All right. Any questions here from the guests?
No, I think I'm ready to go.
Okay, great. All right. So why don't you get started? Go ahead.
Sure. So I'm assuming I start.
Go ahead.
Argument. All right.
Go ahead.
So before we get started, obviously, I wanted to thank PrimeCayes for sponsoring this debate, and the judges and Free and the tournament organizers for the work that they've done and creating this. But to get down to it, I am advocating for my plan for an ethical voter test, which will work to inform voters. And I realize, creating a plan for a hypothetical systemic overhaul has kind of placed the burden of proof on my shoulders, but I trust that the judges will find that I'll fulfill this burden and potentially exceed it. So what the hell am I talking about? Like an informed voter test. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to create a questionnaire system. So that politicians have to be transparent about their policies before voting time, that voters then will take at the polls, so then they can be better informed. So how am I going to do that? So before the presidential election, both candidates write out the policies that constitute the platform that they're running on. Are they pro-life? Are they pro-choice? Are they looking to increase the minimum wage? by how much, how are they planning to get this accomplished, etc. And then opposing candidates will write, a dissenting opinion on those proposed policies. You can think of this similarly to like a voter information guide. Then this information is turned into a questionnaire, which candidates are going to fill out. So they'll rank the policies by how important they are, how much do they agree or disagree with, the policies. So presumably there may be some overlap between candidates' policies. They might say, actually, I'm kind of the same sort of mind on, whatever, gun control or what have you. And then they take the questionnaire themselves. So they rank these questions. And right before voting time, voters are given this same questionnaire. After they're given the questionnaire, they fill it out in exactly the same format, that the candidate filled it out, which policies are most important to them, which policies are least important to them. And after they've done that, they're shown how much what's important to them lines up with their potential candidates' prescriptive policies that constitutes their platform. They're given a score. And the crucial thing to remember is that they are not told which candidate favors which position. Now they're given this information well in advance of the debate. So if they were sort of like paying attention in the media cycle, presumably they would know, right? But they fill out their beliefs, what they think on all of these issues, and then they're given a score at the end, which basically says, how much do I agree with X candidate? How much do I agree with Y candidate? And which candidate do I agree with more? And then the most important part of this voting test is at the very end, they are given the opportunity to vote for whoever they choose to vote for. They're not taken away. Their vote is not taken away. They're still able to vote for whichever candidate they think is the best choice. I think that educating people is of paramount importance. Livry, do you mind if I ask you what you do for a living?
You can ask. I wouldn't answer.
Yeah, but not during this moment. Just go ahead
Fair
with
enough.
your.
That's fine. Presumably, you might think that teaching is important with your profession, but educating people is really, really critical. And if we have a better informed populace, they're going to have better ideas and a more nuanced idea of how our political system works. So I think that ultimately this would lead to really good and ethical outcomes.
All right, live free. Your intro.
Okay, sure. So I'm unsure if I should address the arguments you previously made that led to this debate or the arguments you're making right now that are different from those previous arguments. Do you have any preference?
Can you do both?
I can do both.
Go
So,
ahead.
Yeah.
No,
Sorry,
it's
just
my
to be clear.
Wait.
turn. So I wrote this arising from our discussions in which you argued in favor of creating a test to weed out low information voters with respect to civics or other specified knowledge fields. Going further, to want to redesign that test periodically to ensure 50 plus 1% of people pass to encourage competition. So that's just a forenote. But I would make note here, American history is fraught with disenfranchisement, both de facto and de jure. We can consider how we got here from the 1866 Voting Rights Act, which granted citizenship to all native-born Americans, through to the 15th Amendment, which granted the right to vote for African Americans. During this time, laws were passed to erase or to bury these expansions of liberty. For example, in Louisiana, we passed grandfather clauses designed to keep former slaves and their descendants from voting. Consequently, registered Black voters went from 45% to 4%. Mississippi, South Carolina, Alabama, and Virginia followed Louisiana's lead shortly thereafter. By 1940, only 3% of eligible African Americans in the South were registered to vote. Jim Crow laws, like literacy tests, which make no mistake is fundamentally what my opponent has argued in favor of explicitly, and poll taxes work to exclude specific cohorts of the public. It wasn't until 1964 with the 24th Amendment outlawing poll taxes, and then the 1964 VRA, which outlawed literacy tests in addition to instituting standards around which districts are organized their voting, especially in cases of districts with a history of discrimination. That was the case until 2013. In 2013, Shelby versus Holder struck down this requirement that certain jurisdictions get pre-approval from the DOJ to enact voting regime changes. These states had wasted no time implementing potentially discriminatory laws, including Texas, Mississippi, North Carolina, Florida, Virginia, South Dakota, Iowa, and Indiana. Between like January 1st and September 27th of 2021, 19 states passed 33 laws to make it harder to vote. In other words, access to the right to vote increasingly depends on where you reside. So, getting to your point, your new revised point that is different than the point that this debate arose from. How does a government construct a test without bias, or implicit or otherwise? Surveys traditionally get many respondents who are older, wider, well-educated, and they routinely adjust for discrepancies between sample and population in age, ethnicity, education, and other demographics. But even the surveys that made all of these adjustments were off by 2 percentage points on average. The simple truth is constructing a test that accurately reflects reality with respect to civics or any other knowledge field and tying it to voting is nigh impossible. The fact remains that liberals and conservatives can't even agree on basic facts. Is there any hope for pushing forward and finding common ground with respect to designing a test? That is the backdrop that this debate comes from. A divided country, rampant with misinformation, a cynical polity, willing to enact its machinations to suit their continual power, with a history of disenfranchisement and subjugation. In short, my opponent will need to willfully ignore these facets, these pitfalls, and allude to abstraction or to resort to obfuscation in order to make their point that voting tests as a mechanism to weed out voters makes any sense, and isn't merely a tool of the powerful to subjugate undesirable populations. Thank you.
Park, your response, sir.
Yeah. I guess I gotta address the sort of meta conversation
Well,
stuff that.
well, before we do, let's since I don't think I mean, unless you want to actually have that position, because it seems like you've moved it. I mean, it's probably best we move forward
Yeah,
with
it's
the
a stronger
position that
version
you
of my
actually
earlier
hold.
argument,
How
right? Like, what did you
stronger?
expect me to do with my week?
No,
I mean,
you can.
wait. We don't want to argue it in the meta. What we're going to do is just move forward with the argument that you propose and that
Fair enough.
Park responded
Thank
to.
you.
So go ahead.
Great. You know, I'm not quite sure how my argument is disenfranchising or oppressing a minority group here. I'd be sort of interested to hear how the relevance of all the very well laid out arguments that you made has to my argument. But the idea here is that we're creating a very minimal barrier to entry for voters. I mean, if someone potentially did not want to, take this questionnaire, although it's presented before their opportunity to vote, they could just, answer a, right? Like if they're really not interested in the information presented here, they can speed through it. But at the end of the day, the purpose here is we're trying to educate people. Some people believe that this is their civic duty to go through and ensure that their what they believe is being reflected by the candidate that they're voting for. Now, you bring up another interesting question, right? Like how are these? How's the wording of each test question come up with? Well, I think we already do a pretty good job of that in terms of ballot measures, right? Like state agencies work to ensure that the wording of these is really clear, but the fundamental authors of these policies are going to be the candidates themselves. And presumably because they're making their stances really, really clear right from the get-go, they're going to be brought through this media cycle, and each of their sort of their prescriptive policies are going to be dissected at large. So I don't know that it would there's a real issue there in terms of coming up with the wording. Certainly, as I say, ballot initiatives are able to do a reasonable job, and democracy's been chugging along for the last 236 years. So I don't know that that's necessarily going to create the barrier that you think it will.
Sure. So, just to clarify, you are in favor of a policy that brings forth ideas, that is then filtered into a questionnaire, gives opportunity for dissents, and then is presented to voters as a way to match like ideations with specified policy outcomes.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
Cool. Not a voting test, and it's not what we talked about previously.
Right. I mean, I think that's
It-
clear. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
It is a test. We're testing voters on whether or not they agree with what a particular candidate voted for. If you like, I don't understand what your point is here.
Live free.
My point is the predicate for this debate arose from previous discussions we have with regards to DGG and our disagreement over the instituting of a voting test that would be necessarily exclusionary. If you're interested in having a discussion about ways to better inform people, that is a different debate.
Yeah, are you trying to concede your point and then say that there should just be an exit and entry survey?
Not at all. I'm trying to make I've made several iterations of this argument to try and inform voters. The name of this topic is Ethics of Informed Voter Tests. I'm making a test
and your
to
point within
ensure
the
that
debate
voters
is that
are informed. I mean, you had plenty of opportunities to, I don't know, I guess you're saying that I wasn't clear enough on my argument. Did you expect me to present my entire argument to you?
Yeah, the only reason you're here is because you were arguing in favor of a test to be able to vote. If you wish to concede that, you can. However,
an
I'm not sure what
informed
you're
voter
doing at this
test.
point.
The entire point of my test is to inform voters.
Yeah, what you're describing is a survey.
What is the what's the problem here?
So it seems like to me it seems like a semantic difference when we say informed voter test. We want to test whether this voter is informed enough to be able to vote, like more like poll tests were.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like
I'm not.
wait,
At
one
the end of the
moment,
day, everyone's still able to cast their vote.
He's moderating. You
All right.
stop.
Right. Just one moment, please. And it just doesn't seem like the contention was about like informing voters via a test, right? This seems like a semantic difference here. I mean, if Toyo's correct, if you want to concede the point that we ought not like use a voter test to determine whether people can or cannot vote, then I think
agreed. I don't. I mean, that if that
clear,
was what I was arguing in an earlier
free, right?
form of my argument, then yeah, I mean the argument has progressed. I've built a stronger argument here.
So
like, why were we given prep time if not to make a stronger argument?
If I may, if I may. So you know the difference between like a poll and a test, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So how is what you're describing not just a poll? A poll is people's opinions, and then a matching organizational structure on the back end to filter and
because we're testing. Just to be explicitly clear, we're testing how much a voter. Are you arguing this because you can't argue with my argument?
Can you answer the question?
No,
okay,
sorry.
To be clear,
confused,
dude. No, me too.
You have made numerous. This is a conversation you and I have had like half a dozen times.
I've had it with a bunch of people in the server, and every time my argument has gotten stronger over time. Like,
this is not a stronger argument. It's a different argument.
All right, so if it's not stronger, then argue with it, right? Like, so my point is that a test, we're testing how much an individual lines up with their particular candidate, right? And in that way, that we're giving them information. Like, it's an informed voter test.
That's not the point you came here to argue.
Real quick.
No, it is. That's what's the title of this thing. It's informed voter.
You keep interrupting because we can kick you from the panel. So hang on a second. You came here arguing in favor of a test to vote, not a poll about how you voted. If you would like to concede that, we can move on to the second round and you can concede. No. However,
I'm not.
It seems that you have somehow tried to switch the topic, and 3 people are now telling you.
Kick me out, Toyolo. Go for it. But I mean, that's not what I came here to argue.
The
title of this debate is
Can I summarize the difference?
Informed voter test.
Can I summarize the difference between a poll and a test?
I mean,
a poll is a record of opinion. a test is a rubric you use to measure something against something else. A
Right.
test has an outcome with respect to some permission or some capacity bestowed upon a person. A test measures something in a way, whereas a poll records opinions and then delineates those opinions to, in your case, matching parameters.
Right. So okay. To be
So,
explicitly clear, maybe you misunderstood my
Uh-huh.
argument. Right. The questionnaire is not being designed or made by the populace. It's being made by the two candidates at issue. In this case, presidential candidates. Right. Then they fill out a test created from this information, and they are tested on how much their opinion matches up with a particular voter. We're not trying to strip them of their right to vote.
Well,
I mean,
okay, yeah. So
Are you gonna
are
have
we
any more of
going
these?
to
wait,
continue
hey,
the
hey, yeah,
debate, or
no,
are we
we're
going to
not.
have this meta debate?
No, we're not. I think at that moment we just conceded that. I mean, the topic that we came to discuss has been given. So I think this is time to call this debate, if y'all don't mind. Um,
Wow.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to be
Okay.
moving on to the next next
So
debaters.
before we do, I'd love to just reiterate that the name of this topic was Ethics of Informed Voter Tests, and I provided a hypothetical for that.
That's great,
all
buddy.
right, thanks.
Unbelievable. Not biased.
Okay. This is weird. So
Yeah.
I'm actually okay. I'm deciding, trying to decide what is the best way to move forward with this. I'm just consulting with the other judges to be sure this is what we're going to do. But yeah.
I mean, Liffrey was given plenty of time to, if he had questions about any of this stuff, he was given plenty of time. The judges consulted with me on I was pressed today to give specifics of my argument, and I gave them. I don't understand why there's an issue suddenly.
Okay. So okay. Oh my god. All right. So I don't know. We have time to. Oh my. And
I just would like to point out I didn't get to 80% of the arguments that I have with respect to the broader topic, which we agreed to talk on. So sorry,
okay.
Park.
What do you? I didn't agree to talk to you. I agreed to talk about informed voting tests, and I've given that to you. If you're too much of a coward to actually engage with what I put forward, then just
Live
concede.
free.
Don't kick me out.
Live free.
What's up?
Would you be able to argue against? Because the point of this is just to show who is a better debater, no matter what
Sure.
the topic is. So could you guys argue on this particular topic? Do you feel comfortable, Live free?
I'm fine with talking about it. I wouldn't necessarily call it a debate, because if we're merely defining this as if we're merely redefining voting tests in the way they are constructed in American history, in the way that Park has argued in favor of them, if we're reconstruing that entire system to be questionnaires that help people learn who they want to vote for, then who gives a shit? There are a myriad of ways we can encourage and enhance civic participation, from civics tests to leadership programs to, for example, all sorts of things.
Then argue that. If you've got points against what I'm saying, then argue.
But what he just said is that there is no argument there.
There is no
Yeah,
argument
it's
there.
just a discussion about a poll at this point. There's
So
nothing
you
that
agree with me?
discriminates or creates.
You're saying you agree with me?
I'm saying if you wish
it's
to reconstruct voting
not-
tests to be questionnaires we pass out to people and let them go, oh, I have a federal I Side with Me website. Then who gives a shit? Throw it against the wall, see what sticks. I don't care.
Okay.
Okay.
If you agree, then you agree. But
Okay. All right.
I don't know why you're attacking me.
In that case, I'm calling it. I'm calling it. It seems like
that's
there's a big disagreement here. And it seems like the argument has shifted. Would you agree, moderator?
It's not.
Yes, the argument has shifted.
What?
And we no
Look
longer.
at the name of the argument. What are you talking about?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we are going to call it. We're going to give this to Live Free.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Not biased at all, by the way.
Not biased at all.
We're going to go on to
Okay.
Yes, that's
Blackfoot
unfortunate.
versus
But
Starless.
Do you want people to? I'll give you both a chance, right? So do you want to let people know where to find you on social media or anything? Now's your time.
Yep. Yeah, I'm happy to debate someone who has the courage to debate this position at twitch.tv.
What position, you coward? Oh my god.
Yo,
I've given you my
let's
position.
calm down.
I
Let's calm
outlined
down.
it
Let's calm down. Let's
thoroughly.
calm down.
So if you
Hey,
want to
hey,
debate, then I'm here for it. Like, let's do it.
Take
Like,
take your moment. Take your
don't
moment
get out
and
on.
finish.
All right, you got it. My Twitch channel is twitchtv.com/parasocialpark. And again, like, thanks for watching. It's unfortunate that this was so biased that Free had to get me out on a technicality.
All right.
But
Yeah. So Live Free, you got a moment, man. Do your thing too, bro.
I have nothing to plug. Thanks to Elo for setting up a debate thing. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. All right.
problem,
So
buddy.
we
Hope
are
you had
going
fun.
to move on. Thank you so much, both of you.
what happens to the candidates, just out of curiosity?
The candidates.
You live life.
Yeah, both
Yep.
positions.
Well, no, we already gave the
You go.
to Live Free. We'll just move forward to the next debate.
Oh, the win to Live Free.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
All right.
So thanks, guys. We'll.
Off you go. Okay. Thank you.
We were kind of warned ahead of time that he may try to change the debate topic, but we told him not to. He said he wouldn't. That's what happens.
We are off to an amazing start. Thank you all so much
Yeah.
for being here. This is great.
Day ever.
We're crushing it. All right.
Amazing.
Aren't we
Yes, sir.
happy? All right. So we get
This is great.
we get live.
It's like they don't even want money, dude.
Yeah, right. We got to live free on a technicality. Okay, or whatever. So
You biased motherfucker.
we're biased, terribly biased. Okay, we're moving on. Is Lactoid is there? Starless is there? We're pulling them in. All right, pulling them in. Okay, we got
Lactoid has an intro he wants me to read for him, and I think that it serves him well.
Okay, before
is,
that, Lactoid and Starless, you have cameras? Starless?
No, sorry.
That's okay. All right. Lactoid and yours is coming online. All right.
I
So
have a cam. I might need to restart my Discord app.
okay. Why don't you do that, and we'll introduce the other person first.
Great.
Okay, great. So go ahead, Starless, and introduce yourself.
No, I'm Abel. I study mathematics and I like debating. That's about it.
You sound a bit quiet. Try it again.
Oh, hi. And I'll turn my. Hi, I'm Abel. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yeah, I like debating. I study mathematics. That's about it.
Okay. Fantastic. All right. We're waiting on the other one to restart their Discord. Jump back in. And up there they are. Pull them in. Okay. Lactoid, if you could. There we go.
Okay.
All right. Handsome individual
This
there.
is
Well, I
He's
think
a rising star from DGG. His name is Lactoid. He's a real licensed lawyer. He's the bane of leftists everywhere, the doer of more than 17 push-ups, and the leader of the Anti-Communist United server. This is the man, the myth, the milky legend, Lactoid.
yes, sir.
Loving it, right? We should do the whole Game of Thrones things and like add titles to the end of our names. Love it.
Right.
All right, great. So if you want to introduce anything else about yourself, Lactoid. If not, then we'll get started with Free.
I did more than 17 push-ups.
Okay,
I
great.
think he did.
Yeah. But we don't. No video. No proof. Okay. Free. Introduce the name of the topic. Free, if you could. Right.
Toyola's got the topic.
Okay, great. Toyola.
So they are going to be debating the death penalty. Lactoid is dramatically out of favor he's against the death penalty, and Starless is here to defend it. Starless, just going forward, do you prefer Abu or Starless?
Abu is fine. That works.
All right, there you go.
So Abu, how about you kick us off?
Yeah, just for notice, this debate was given to me last day because the guy backed up. So yeah, I think just in general, there are really good arguments. There are really good arguments against the death penalty right now with its current implementations against it, and I know Lactoid is going to touch on that. But I think that the philosophical arguments for the death penalty might be strong enough to convince like people in favor of it. So that's where I'm coming from. Yep.
To be clear, is that the entirety of your opening statement?
Yeah, that's it. I don't like.
All right. I like to.
Okay. Mine's a little bit longer. I hope that's okay. Okay. My position during this debate will be that capital punishment as a domestic criminal justice method is outdated, irresponsible, unnecessary, and costly. I will show that it's damaging for society and can kill innocent people, which is probably pretty bad. It's bad morally, pragmatically, and economically. I also want to give my opponent, Abu, some credit for stepping up at the last minute for this debate, since my last challenger, Smalls, chicken out. So, Abu, you're not a bitch who had to work, so thank you for that. I will start by analyzing the goals of punishment. The most commonly accepted criminological justifications for punishment include rehabilitation, restitution, deterrence, victim well-being, retribution, and incapacitation. However, alternative punishment methods are superior in every category to the death penalty. The first two justifications are not addressed by the death penalty at all by design. The death penalty does not serve to rehabilitate a perpetrator, since it kills them, and it does not provide any money to the victim. The death penalty is also more expensive than any other punishment method. In the US, the cost of putting a prisoner to death is on average $1.26 million, while the cost of life imprisonment with no parole is only $740,000. Therefore, the death penalty soaks up money that could go to victims, such as pay for their therapy. It could go to more enforcement to prevent the crimes from happening in the first place. Or we could just not take it from the hardworking taxpayers. One of the most common arguments for the death penalty is deterrence. Here, the empirical science shows the death penalty is not more effective for deterrence than other methods. In fact, 88% of criminologists assert that the death penalty does not deter crime more than life imprisonment. The vast majority of research that exists shows the death penalty is not an effective method of deterrence compared to other methods. Further, people often argue the death penalty is good for victims. A 2012 study conducted in Minnesota indicated that the families of murder victims were able to move on sooner and were psychologically healthier when the perpetrator was given life in prison as opposed to the death penalty. This is because the family avoids being re-traumatized by the multiple appeals before an execution, and the punishment is more certain. With modern day imprisonment methods, facility escape is extremely rare, and proper supervision and prison maintenance is a far more cost-effective method of incapacitation than the death penalty. Next, we come to retribution. I personally don't value this motivation because it seems a little bit like the epitome of a caveman feels argument. But even if we accept retribution as valid, I still assert that alternatives are more effective at achieving retribution than the death penalty, such as prison or forced labor for the benefit of the victims. Putting someone to death is a waste of what could be a cheap labor source that we can use to compensate the victims. Also, if the criminal believes in heaven, killing them isn't all that punishing, since you've just given them a one-way ticket to Jesus. Finally, the death penalty is permanent. There are many examples, especially those investigated by organizations such as the Innocence Project, of cases in which those on death row are freed after new evidence shows they are innocent. If we kill someone, we can't let them out. If they're imprisoned or put to work and later found innocent, they could be freed and compensated for their time. Therefore, the death penalty fails in every single goal of punishment. It's wasteful, costly, permanent, inaccurate, and thus morally and economically bad, and has no justification.
All right. Thank you for that. Abu.
Okay, we can go through a lot of these, but a lot of these aren't issues with the death penalty itself, but with our current implementation of the death penalty. And so when you said the death penalty doesn't serve to rehabilitate people, that's not the point, right? We're doing the death penalty for people who cannot be rehabilitated. The second thing you said was like the death penalty doesn't help victims. You brought up a study where life in prison versus the death penalty. But this is because we have a lengthy appeal process inside the United States that does things that, victims might be forced to retestify again and again and again for years. We're able to shorten this appeals process and we're able to change the system. Perhaps it could be possible that victims would feel a sense of satisfaction knowing that perpetrators who've harmed them and harmed their families were killed. You've used 88% of criminologists agree that the death penalty is bad, but generally most of us agree, at least in academia, that using consensuses by surveys aren't really a good idea. I think a better thing you might have pointed at is this amount of papers agree or this amount of things agree or stuff like that. Because generally, for example, if you poll a lot of biologists, the famous one are like Watson or the discoverers of DNA or whatever, even among Nobel Prize winners, a lot of them believe in really outdated things with in regards to like race and IQ and stuff like that. But generally, the papers show a different story, and that's why we gotta like focus on that. And then the last thing was like retribution. One of the things I want to bring up is like proportionality. So, like for example, if you steal a candy bar, right? We're gonna take something from you, and that's kind of how our system is based, right? Or if you punch someone, we'll do a more lengthy sentence towards you. But when it comes to like proportional punishment, there's generally seems to be this arbitrary boundary which we can't cross, which is like death, right? So, for example, if you kill one person, or if you kill 10 million people, why is it the same life in prison sentence, right? Shouldn't someone who kills 10 million people or get a more punishing sentence? The other one as well that you brought up was like cheap labor source or stuff like this, but this circles back to like a lot of issues in slavery or stuff like that. So I personally disagree with it. And the last one is like permanent, and so we can't let them out, right? And I would say that if we were ever able to implement the death penalty in a system, we would go beyond like a reasonable doubt. We'd go something like without a shadow of doubt, right? Like for example, someone like Hitler, we would, if he existed in our society today, we might give him the death penalty. Or someone who's like, I don't know, some crazy like killer, which we know for sure did these crimes with all sorts of evidence, then yeah, we would give them death penalty. And we wouldn't, I know right now our implementations have been bad because we haven't had DNA evidence. A lot of people have been put in and killed, which they shouldn't have been, and that was mistakes. But hopefully in the future, these things can be resolved. So that's my response to what you're saying. If you want, do you want to go off on a point or something like that? Where do you want to go from here?
I wrote down all.
Yeah, you want to respond to this point? Yeah.
Sure. So, okay, you're talking about the level of permanency. We should let go beyond a reasonable doubt, right?
Yeah.
This is the purpose of the appeals processes. One of the issues with the death penalty is the risk of killing an innocent person. The reason why the appeals processes exist to begin with is to make sure that we're not doing that, or at least we're minimizing it as much as possible. We can save costs by reducing these safeguards on cases in which, yeah, we're sure that this person killed that person. And then, let's say we skip a couple of appeals, and then later it turns out, yeah, we were wrong. There's new evidentiary methods that are consistently coming out that are showing that people who we knew were guilty, hey, it turns out like the DNA evidence shows they're not, and the person who actually did it is still out there. And it's really unfortunate if that new DNA evidence comes out and oops, we already killed them, right? We can't let them out. We can't compensate them for their time and at least try to let them salvage what they can of their life in our society. I brought up how there's a lot of research papers, or the majority of research papers agree that the death penalty is not an efficient deterrent. The 88% of criminologists, I think, is still relevant in the same way of bringing up, 93% of climatologists agree that the climate change is happening. Argument from authority isn't always perfect, but when you have all the experts who are agreeing on one thing, I think it's telling as lay people that that's at least something that we should take some heed to. As it comes to retribution and the idea of proportionality, you brought up like how slavery was just, that's just, I don't believe in that. That's just wrong. But somehow killing somebody is perfectly acceptable to meet some kind of proportionality for somebody who kills a whole bunch of people compared to somebody who, let's say, kills just one person. I guess I would like some clarification as to why it's okay to like kill somebody if they do something bad enough, but it's not okay to take that person and make them go do some community service for, a couple hours every day, maybe a whole bunch of hours every day, depending on how bad their crime was. I don't understand why that's so evil, but it's okay to, if that wasn't going to happen to them, well, then we just kill them because that's the more humane solution. I don't see that as the more humane solution. In fact, it's not only, again, are we preventing them from being able to get out in the future if it turns out that they're innocent or if they're rehabilitated. It also, we're missing out on money for the victims and also money that we could use to, fund law enforcement and prevent the crimes from happening in the first place. And I would not kill Hitler. I would force Hitler to work for the Jews. That's what I would do with Hitler.
Wait, actually, so so one thing to make it explicitly clear, like of course the appeals process is important for like, determining someone is really, really guilty. But I would say like, yeah, like right now, of course, the technology probably isn't there yet. to like fully implement the death penalty to where we can know, like, 100% of the time everything is that person killed someone, right? We agree on this. But as time continues, our tech gets better and better and better, right? Like criminology 100 years ago couldn't differentiate between like bite marks or like teeth marks, right? And now they can. And in the future, maybe 100 years or 200 years, we'll be able to get absolute certainty to know who did what, and that happened. The second thing is the other one I really want to focus on is, you said Hitler. So like we both agree that like Hitler did the Holocaust, right? And we both agree that like Hitler has done immeasurable harm in society. And I would say that, like, for example, if Hitler was still alive today, hypothetically, right, and the majority of Jewish people were in favor of like giving him the death penalty, you would tell them like no. I just want to focus on your reasoning behind that. Like, why not?
Okay, I will answer that question. You brought up how I want to go point by point though, right? You brought
Yeah.
up technology, increased technology, and you brought up bite marks, which I think is interesting because it's true. 100 years ago, our bite mark technology wasn't very good. It turns right now our bite mark technology isn't very good. There is a lot of difficulties, and a lot of criminologists express a lot of issues with how bite mark technology is currently and how it's used currently to prosecute people. The Innocence Project has overturned. I don't know the exact number, but they have overturned convictions based on the fact that bite mark imprints, that sort of technological analyzing is simply not up to snuff to actually reach beyond a reasonable doubt, which is, again, the standard we have to prevent innocent people from being killed. As to Hitler, right? Okay, the ultimate historical bad guy. We agree. He's a really bad guy. I don't think that it's healthy to foster the reward being like just kill him, right? I think it not only is it wasteful, I think it fosters some pretty dark edges of the human psyche. But yeah, I mean, no, I wouldn't let them kill Hitler. I would say, Hitler, you did a lot of bad shit. Now you got to go work every day, and you got to, donate that money to Israel or, any other Jewish organization that,
I,
to make
so
up for the wrongs he did.
So you would tell, like, because I'm really curious about this. So you would tell like Jewish taxpayers that they would need to subsidize the food, the meals, the blankets, the heating every day for Hitler, so he can live a normal life in prison like every other criminal does for the rest of his life, right? Like there would be no difference
No,
in how we would treat someone like Hitler versus like someone like another super murderer or stuff like that. And I would say like the proportionally what they did to society is insane, right? And I think as well, keeping Hitler alive is like a symbol for these Nazi ideals and stuff like this. So by killing him, we can finally put a lot of this stuff to rest. And I would feel like a lot of families of Jewish people who've had their families genocided and who've have like seen these gas chambers or stuff like that would feel an immense sense of relief knowing that that person is dead and his ideas or his influence can't hurt them anymore.
I'm not saying like we're gonna give Hitler a cushy life. He's gonna be in the salt mines, but I'm just saying like he's working. We don't
Uh-huh.
even have to tell people where Hitler is, right? We can just have him go work, right?
I would say him being alive is the cushy life. I think by doing the Holocaust, he lost that right to stay alive and participate in our society.
I'm
Whatever you
curious.
feel that is.
I want to ask on like this is an interesting topic. I want to ask on like your scale of what level of retribution is the kind that you're looking at, right? So I think we would agree that death is bad, but like if we were to torture somebody like in brutal torture methods for the rest of their life, that would be pretty painful, right? Do you think that we, instead of killing Hitler, that's not enough to make up for what he did? Maybe we should like lay Hitler down and waterboard him and then brand him for the rest of his natural life. I mean, if you really hated Hitler, wouldn't you agree that that'd be the best solution for maximizing Hitler's pain?
Yeah, some people would argue that like the only way to get justice back if Hitler was alive would be like to torture him for every, minute of his life or stuff like this. But I would say ending someone's conscious experience is the maximal thing we can do. And also ending someone's conscious experience can be done in a humane way, right? Like our government does this all the time with like euthanasia or stuff like that. So I would be more in favor of that than to torture him everyday life. And I would say forcing him to work would be like a form of torture. I'd say that's more inhumane than like, just, putting a needle in him and he just goes to sleep and never wakes up, right? That sounds to me like the more humane thing to do.
I think humane here is doing a lot of legwork. I don't understand why, when we're talking about retribution, right? The idea here of retribution, my understanding, is to make them suffer as a result of what they did to other people. If
Yeah.
you're saying that like this is like ending their conscious experience for some reason, like fulfills this special
Well,
niche of retribution, but like torturing them or making them work doesn't. I guess I'm just like, why is ending their consciousness, like, why is that the only acceptable level of like maximal retribution?
I think like how I see retribution is sort of like, to dumb it down, it's the eye for an eye principle, right? Like if you take something from someone else should be able to take back what, or at least take something back from you, right? And I would say that the most you have to give is your life, right? It's the only thing that separates you from like a rock, right? So I would say that's why I consider it being the maximal thing that someone can give away, right? And of course, I think like torture, there are good arguments for like, we should torture Hitler since he's done like such a great harm to our society, or stuff like that. But I think that like continuously torturing someone kind of seems inhumane to me personally. Like for the rest of their life, if we waterboard them until, so I feel like killing them is just a way to take back what they took in a sort of humane fashion. Right? That's what I see personally.
I agree with you that if we were to brutally torture, it's okay. You're saying it just seems inhumane to me it seems inhumane to me to brutally torture somebody for the rest of their life. I don't disagree with that, but if that's the logic we're using, where this just kind of seems inhumane to me,
Mhm.
I mean, we could use this for the death penalty as well, right? The death penalty seems inhumane to me. It's predicated on a feeling of revenge. It's predicated on a feeling of just simply trying to hurt them, as opposed to what I think are more productive and beneficial motives of punishment, which is, how do we improve society? How do we make sure that this person who is wronged is made as whole as possible, that like as close as possible to how they were before the crime happened? And then I guess I don't see ending consciousness as this kind of special category. I don't think killing somebody is the worst thing you can do to them. I think there are fates worse than death. I think you could torture somebody to a dramatic degree for the rest of their life, and it would be worse than if they were killed. Like personally, let's say, I know polls are flawed, but if we polled most people, hey, would you rather be killed right now, or would you rather be under excruciating torture for the rest of your life? I think most people would just prefer to die.
Well, yeah, of course, but we don't have to keep going on this torture thing because this debate is about the death penalty, right? But if we agree, like, if you're at the point where you're willing to waterboard someone for the rest of their life, you're at the point where you could probably be able to like justify killing them as well, right? Like, if we've gotten to the point where like we would say like, yeah, we're okay with waterboarding Hitler till he dies, we would be okay with like ending him as well, because as you said, their fate's worse than death, right?
Right. Well, my point on torture is simply to, I guess, highlight the fact that I think there's an inconsistency here in saying that the death is the worst possible thing. I think there are a lot of other things that, if we're going to go ahead with the retribution argument to its maximal capacity, there's a
Yeah.
whole bunch of different options you could have that doesn't necessarily justify death, especially again with the other arguments, right? The permanency, the fact that you're losing out on something valuable there that we could use. I'm not in favor of waterboarding somebody until they die. I agree with you that's probably inhumane. I don't agree with killing them either. I think that I don't think community service is akin to torture, and I think that especially for the people who commit horrible crimes like murder, there is a sweet spot we could hit where you think death is okay for somebody who's like a brutal murderer, and you don't want torture though because that's too far. Well, what if it's not torture, but what if but you think forced labor is also torture? Okay, well, how much forced labor? Is a judge mandating somebody to do 100 hours of community service? Is that torture? I don't think it is, right? And so I think it's a question of just coming up, what's the most productive way to punish this person while recognizing, yeah, like they need to be punished. I don't think death is the solution.
Yeah, but I feel like, as you said as well, these things should benefit society, right? Like if Hitler was like in life in prison, for example, what if Hitler gets parole one day, right? Or what if Hitler like, escapes one day? Or if the society changes to where like people are more favorable to Hitler, that he can be let out, right? There's a sort of permanence in like someone dying where like no matter what is done in the future, this person can never like hurt our society again. I think the example I'll give you is like a lot of these evil people were in like Afghani jails, right? When the Taliban took over, these people were like let out. Had there been a death penalty, right, there wouldn't have been like all these, crazy people running around inside our society. Like it could be argued that like this thing is permanence is like a good trait for the death penalty. That's like one way I would say. So if you're like I'm monologuing, maybe you can respond.
I think it's more cost efficient to ensure
It's
Hitler is secured as opposed to killing them. I
I,
think, and we're talking about a general policy, okay, that we're going to implement as a domestic punishment method. I think we can't, we have to take into account all situations, not just Hitler. But also, let's assume, okay, we're only talking about high profile individuals. Your arguments, these could apply equally to Nelson Mandela or other people who were imprisoned falsely and are actually important people. Well, if they had been killed, well, then they couldn't get out and actually do important things. I wouldn't let Hitler out, okay, but I also wouldn't kill Hitler either.
Yeah, so, but I would say Hitler is the type of person. Nelson Mandela and stuff like this are different because Hitler's the type of person that can never be rehabilitated, right? After killing 6 million people on like a genocidal quest, I don't think there's any action Hitler can take to redeem himself or to pull a Nelson Mandela and start helping our society, right? Like the sort of permanence is like a good feature here because if you're a Jewish family, when you go to sleep, you want to know that that fucker is dead, right? You want to know that fucker is never coming out. He's never harming your family again. That's why the death penalty works great here. Like I don't see why you're if our state can justify killing people in wars, killing people like with drone strikes, right? All of this, then why can't they justify just killing one guy to help our society overall? Like I just don't see how this is like that hard of a reach.
Because we have him secured. I wouldn't be in favor of drone bombing surrendered soldiers, right? There's a difference between war, which is known as a suspension of our common rules of morality, because it's survival of the fittest, as compared to how are we going to regulate the society which we live in. If we take somebody prisoner, right, we have them secured, and I agree we should invest in making sure they don't get out and making sure that they don't, that they're not that they are incapacitated and not having a bad influence on the rest of the world. I just think as a policy, I haven't seen data to suggest that the death penalty is far more effective than properly securing.
Yeah, in reference to Hitler, when you capture a soldier, right, he loses his weapon. His gun is gone. He can't harm the state anymore. It's not necessary to kill him, right? But Hitler just being alive in that prison is a threat to your society, right? Even him being alive lets other Nazis know there's still hope, right? Killing him ends that hope. So I would say it's necessary for the state to kill him. Of course, we're talking about high profile individuals, but he's one of those individuals where even in captivity, he can do great harm to our society. And that's why I would justify it that way.
I guess it would be a question of I don't think you have any empirics that if we had Hitler in prison, what effect that would have on the Nazi population, or if we had any high-profile picture in prison as opposed to simply executing them, if they were in prison and their communication was cut off, right? I mean, I would want to see if there's any actual effect on the things that I care about when it comes to improving society. I haven't seen any. It just seems very, very speculative.
I don't think that's far of a reach, right? People, neo-Nazis today, still quote Hitler word for word, right? You go to any of these like Richard Spencer's conference, every second sentence is like, or Nick Fuentes conference, every second sentence is a fucking Hitler quote, right? These people,
and he's dead.
Yeah, these people clearly look up to Hitler, right? These people clearly idealize this man. Him being alive would give them hope. It's actually better for us that he's dead, so he can't be like a symbol or an icon for these people anymore. So I would say like the state could justify the death penalty in that situation. Like, do you disagree with this? Like, which part?
I disagree with it. I mean, if we had the opportunity to kill Hitler or he'd get away, that'd be one thing. But I'm talking about as an alternative method to other punishment methods, which again, for all the reasons I stated forthwith, would be we should probably arrest Hitler. Here'd be great. This would be awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
What if we arrested Hitler and we kept him in his little cell? Okay. And then over time he was thinking about it and he's like, you know what? I did a lot of bad. All right. And then, we don't let him talk to other people on the outside. But then he realizes he's wrong and he writes an updated memoir, right? It's not Mein Kampf, it's something else, right? And it's like why I was wrong. And then we disperse that. Okay, well now, all the Nazis are like, well, damn, like the head honcho is actually saying that what we're believing is wrong. Is that not like as long as we're on the speculative train? I mean, why couldn't that be something that could happen?
The issue is like we can never know for sure if this person was like rehabilitated, right? And so from like the state's perspective, that might, be benefiting society. But I would say the danger of him still going on his like little spree, or maybe even in that book leaving coded messages or stuff like that, is so great that the only possible way where we can ensure that this person doesn't fuck with us anymore is him in like 6 feet under, right? There's no other way we can like make sure of this. I mean,
Okay.
like, uh-huh.
So we've talked about, I guess I'm just going to have to leave it
Yeah, we can
the
table it.
discretion of the audience here as to whether or not the risk of Hitler leaving coded messages in favor of Nazism is a justification enough to have the policy of the death penalty. I don't
I,
think it is, but
I, I
it could
guess
be.
the
So
question is,
let me before you do, let me ask Lactoid a question. Is there any principle that one could hold that would justify, let's say that there's like a violation of the like from the government, like a person assassinating the president, something of that nature that would justify, a governmental body uh, 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 administering the death penalty?
I can only argue from my principles. According to my principles, it would not be justified even if they're an assassin.
Right.
We could arrest them. We could get information from them. And again, if it's determined that they are simply cannot be rehabilitated, there's other solutions other than just throwing them away.
Mm.
And again, like I think we've already talked about this. Even in high-profile killings, there is confusion, right? There's questions. Is this person acting alone? Are they acting as part of a bigger group? If we kill them, are we silencing something that's important? There's a lot of things here that I think we have to keep in mind. And we already know it's so much more expensive to kill people, like with the death penalty. Instead, we could use a fraction of that money, work to improve the security of our prisons or other sorts of confinement facilities, and I guess get away from this fear of coded messages or people breaking out or it's so extremely rare, especially in America, especially in situations in which the areas are properly funded and properly staffed. Um, uh, yeah, ultimately, I don't even think that Abu disagrees that the death penalty right now is bad policy, right? I think there's just really the question is, in a perfect world, could there be some odd scenario in which it could be justified? Um, I still don't think so because it's against my principles, but I think it's undisputed at this point that as a policy, it's bad policy.
the thing is, like, you keep bringing up cost or like stuff like that, but you just said yourself that like had these costs all gone away or had these like things that made a bad policy gone away, you still would have been against the death penalty, right? So if I understand you correctly, you're against the death penalty on principle, right?
Well, no, I'm against the death penalty on 3 grounds: moral, pragmatic, and economic. Right?
Yeah.
It's not a good policy. We might kill the innocent person. Right? That's immoral. It costs a ridiculous amount of money. Right? Okay, well, that's a whole bunch of money that could be used to. Every time you spend $1 that's not spent on preventing a murder, I mean, think about that. We're spending more time. We're spending almost twice as much money. Kind of living out this anger tantrum, killing people, when we could be using that money stopping crime from happening, right? This does not have a strong deterrence effect.
Sure,
The
yeah.
science shows that.
We both know that like as technology progresses, these costs will become negligible someday, right? It might not be in our like lives, right? But maybe in the future, as food prices go down, as labor prices go down, and stuff like this goes down, we will get to a point where like these costs aren't that big of a deal. And the second one I want to focus on is, if not the death penalty, for people who do the proportional thing is what I really want to focus on. For people who do really proportionally like evil actions, right? Or one can own like child. I don't like want to say, but what is there really no? So the only thing you would be in favor of is like, one, you would life in prison, and then two, letting them to like work for a long time, right? I just want to get it clear. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So the technology point is purely speculation, right? You're saying, what if in the future the costs go down, right? What if in the future the costs for life in prison go down? What if in the future what if in the future all the facts that I'm using to argue against the death penalty, what if in the future they're all flipped and actually I'm wrong? I don't know what my opinion would be then, right? I'm arguing that the death penalty is wrong based on everything we know now, and
Yeah,
everything and everything that we can reasonably predict. if you want to speculate and say potentially in the future it could become cheaper to kill somebody, I could say potentially in the future we could pay nothing to keep somebody in prison. Potentially in the future we could, shock their brain with electricity and totally change who they are and make them not a criminal anymore. There's all sorts of things that could happen, but it's just so it is so speculative. I just don't give any weight to it.
I think my point was missed. The point is that we should base our legal systems on justice and morals primarily, right? Cost and other things should be a second factor. Of course, like these costs can change over time or stuff like that, and these costs will influence what is pragmatically possible for us to do based on our morals, right? But essentially, what we should have this debate on is the principle of the state being able to kill someone in captivity a justified one or not? Under like what circumstances? That's the debate I want to focus on.
I haven't heard any argument as to why, in your argument for proportionality,
Yeah.
killing somebody it's strong enough to actually fulfill this feeling of revenge, but torturing, well, no, that's too far. That's inhumane. What about a little torture? No, maybe who knows, like how much torture is equal to death?
How about this? I'll bite the bullet on the torture one, okay? I'm pro waterboarding Hitler till he dies. I'll take that bullet, right? But it's not really relevant to like our debate either way of what I think about this, right?
Well, no, but it is when I'm pointing out to you. Okay, so if you're going to go ahead and bite the bullet, it may not be relevant at that point. If you're okay with endless torture as a potential for proportionality, then the question is just if we can find a torture or forced labor amount that's equal to death, right? If we can find that proportionality that's right on the mark, and we can do that, and we can make money off this person, why would we not punish somebody the same and make money? It just seems economically bad.
I don't think any amount of torture is equal to death. These are hugely different things, right? Like I would say by principle, ending someone's conscious experience is such a bound above like anything you can do to them that like it's not even comparable.
This now we're getting like really deep intuitions. I just disagree. I think there is sufficient level of torture that you can reach that I think I would be okay with death over. I think most people would. Maybe for you, you have this pinnacle of like life is so important that I would rather be in infinite pain every day than die. I mean, I don't know. I don't think that it's proportional.
Before we continue, I got a question for Abu, if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
of course.
How do you deal with the moral, like part of the argument from Lactoid, right? About the uncertainty of a person's guilt or innocence through our current system, right? How do we?
Oh, of course.
square
Like,
that
yeah, I know right now the numbers for the death penalty are like 1 in 20 have been shown to be. So currently our like current system is broken. This you cannot like argue on, right? But of course, like there are people free, which we would agree, where we know 100% for sure that these people did this. And that's why I brought up Hitler, right? I don't think anyone with like a brain will disagree that it was Hitler who commanded and like was responsible for the Holocaust, or at least Hitler and his cronies, right? And that's why I brought him up as an example. And so if this is an argument for or against the death penalty, right? It's an argument against the death penalty in all cases, no matter what, or it's an argument for the death penalty in some cases. I'm arguing in some cases it can be justified. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I would argue that this is about the death penalty as a policy, even if it's sort of narrowly construed. Perhaps I didn't expect this to be, could the death penalty be justified if we knew if there was a risk of Hitler sending coded messages to Nazis and we had to stop that from happening? I think alternatives are better. I think keeping Hitler in a supermax prison or where we can maybe get intelligence out of him. We can study this guy. We can figure out things that are better than just throwing that away. I think that'd be more productive than just again killing people.
I guess another thing I want to focus on is why is it the default that like life in prison is the proportional response? Like where is this coming from? Because it seems rather arbitrary that we choose like, inside other cultures, like I know in the Middle East, if you're like a thief, you get your hand chopped off or something. And that's like a really barbaric, torturous way of doing things. But the point I'm saying is like in different cultures or different sorts of societies, people have done different forms of punishment for different sort of crimes, right? And so why is it seems rather arbitrary that like we've settled on life is prison and only life is prison for all this range of crimes, right? I would say like bringing in like, you know, the death penalty or stuff like this into this conversation makes a lot more sense than like the arbitrariness of just like having it life in prison and that's it.
I wouldn't do just life in prison, right? I mean, there
Yeah.
would be like scales. If somebody's not rehabilitated, we shouldn't let them out, right? And if somebody's done something so heinous, where we're worried about, you know, hey, they get out, they may do it again. We also shouldn't let them out. That's the justification for life in prison, right? You kill 8 people, you clearly have demonstrated that you pose a risk to society. When it comes to the actual punishment, I think there should be difference, right? I think that if you do more awful deeds, you should be, you know, assigned more difficult labor tasks. You should be, you know, not have as good, you know, quarters. I don't know. There's things that we can do that don't necessarily jump to immediately like, okay, we have just prison for everybody, but we need something better. We need death, right? No, it's just not effective. And
Uh,
all empirical evidence we have so far that's not speculative shows it's not a good policy.
what's the task that Hitler is going to get in your society? Like, is he going to run a bit more than the other like inmates, or is he going to like have to pick some more cotton, or is he have to like, you know, pickaxe some more? Like, what is the task that you're going to give Hitler? I'm curious.
I would study Hitler, right? Hitler would be in a supermax prison. We would be part of some kind of CIA intelligence project where we're analyzing his thought process, his knowledge, his history, his confidants, the people who he knew, tracing them down to find different lieutenants that did certain things. You know, finding all the people that fled to South America. There's all sorts of things we could get if we happened to capture Hitler. Um, I don't think if we got him, killing him would be productive. I don't think it was productive to kill bin Laden, right? If we got bin Laden and we got him back here, you know, got him to Guantanamo or something, right? It'd be better than if we just killed him and threw him off the plane.
Is that the extent of his value? Imagine we did that with Osama, right? We extracted as much information as we possibly could. What would be the value in keeping him alive at that point?
Because you never know. This is assuming perfect knowledge. You never know whether or not somebody may have information they're not telling you. You don't know whether or not they could be useful later down the road. And again, let's say we think we've exhausted everything that's special about them. There's still like a labor source. We can still make them go work, right? That's still somebody who can go work as opposed to a body in the ground. You know, there's this idea where there's an exception in the 13th Amendment that allows for criminals to have forced labor as a punishment, right? I
Mhm.
don't understand why people find that so reprehensible when the alternative would be death, right? It seems like to me at least, death is so much more of a inhumane, impractical, and just empirically bad policy. So
I
All
think
right.
it seemed like this argument came down to intuitions. I'm not exactly sure. I had like a couple hours to prepare for this,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
think
yeah.
the majority of like Americans, or at least the majority of people in a lot of societies, will somewhat agree that like, or will agree that the death penalty is like justified or something like that. So I think it really comes down to like, it really comes down to, I feel like most people will agree with my intuitions versus yours. I don't really think we can really go further from here in this one.
I mean, Americans by and large have a lot of disagreements with me, right? If I'm not mistaken, most Americans are in favor of illegalizing burning the flag. Um, Americans, you'd be surprised with some of the messed up shit that most Americans agree with if polled. You're right. I looked into this. Most Americans are in favor of some form of the death penalty. However, that's rapidly been decreasing, right? You go back 30 years, Americans were way more in favor of the death penalty than they are now. In fact, a small minority of people are in favor of the death penalty as just a prescription for most murder cases, right? It's rapidly decreasing in popularity as a policy. And I think part of that is because of the education people are getting about just how empirically bad of a policy it is. It's costly. It doesn't work. It's denying us alternative punishment methods, which are better, more humane, and also more, can rehabilitate people better for crimes that are, that we feel comfortable allowing somebody to come back into society for.
All right, Abu, did you want to respond?
Yeah, closing statements. I think that in certain situations like Hitler or other, evil figures, the death penalty can be justified, right? And I've showed the philosophical arguments for it, which were like retribution, my things of like proportionality. And that's kind of where, and like, for example, in incapacitation, so Hitler can never again like affect society or stuff like that, right? And I think that, of course, we can talk about, Lactoid talks about the economics or the current implementation, but I think what we really should focus on, drill down, is this principle of the state executing like a captured person able to be justified? And if it's able to be justified, then again, as these like pragmatics change, eventually we might be able to see this like take its form in society, right? And that's basically it.
Okay.
All right, Lactoid.
Yeah. So the topic of the debate is somewhat open-ended. I agree. I take some issue with the argument the death penalty can be justified. That was what you said. We're arguing based on our principles about whether or not we believe it to be justified. Could there be some ethical system that I disagree with in which all sorts of things are justified? Of course, right? There are plenty of people with ethical systems that I disagree with, where they think horrific things are justified, that I would argue against. When you say that can be justified, you're assuming principles that I have vehemently disagreed with from the beginning. I'm not just talking about how it's currently implemented. I'm talking about how it's currently implemented. I'm talking about how it would be implemented in the future, barring some kind of strange speculative reality that that no one can predict. It's bad in every way, right? All the empirics we have say that it's bad now. All the empirics we have say that it will be bad in the future. And all the alternatives, at least intuitively, seem very, very preferable to the death penalty, even in the future, even assuming that society takes weird turns. I just think very strongly the evidence has demonstrated the death penalty is a bad idea. And I would ask that people vote that I win. So thank you.
Plead to the audience. All right. Cayes, it's on you.
Okay, yeah. So the judges right now are submitting their decisions. So while we're waiting for that, why don't you two give us an outro in terms of like where people can find you?
What was the question? Sorry.
Give us an outro as to where people can find you. So you have social media or anything you just kind of want to like advertise. Right now is the time. It doesn't have to be your social media, I guess. It could be like your favorite streamer, whatever. Doesn't matter.
But I will shout out my girlfriend. She's watching, so that's it.
Oh, look at that guy getting those points.
Yeah,
My man.
Shout out to Abu's girlfriend. All right, I love to see it. Okay, all right, and please, Lactoid.
So you guys can find me on Twitch, Anti-Communism United. I'm on Discord, Anti-Communism United. We can join together, be the bane of leftists, and defeat leftism worldwide. Yeah, that's what I got.
Okay.
That was fun.
Toyola, just making sure that's the verdict that you wrote in chat. Okay, then I'll reveal it. Our first real verdict. So remember, there are 5 judges, right? I'm one. Toyola's one. We have 3 more who are watching. So the verdict is 2 for Lactoid and 3 for Abu. Abu, you've made it. Past the first round.
Oh wow! Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Congratulations, sir.
You're super quiet, Toyola. Did you mean to say something?
Abu, you're not legally obligated to appear for the second round. I don't want to send anybody after you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Moving on.
No more backing out.
Thank you, Lactoid, man. I appreciate your arguments, bro.
Yeah, seriously, dude. And if we do more of these debates, I would love to have you back on. You did an excellent job. Excellent job.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Yep. Thank you. Do we have the other 2 people ready for the next
They
one?
are ready.
Okay.
It's gonna be Uni and Howell. They're definitely ready.
Uni and Howell. I'm pulling them in. Okay. All right. Hello. All right. We got was it Uni here on camera, or is it?
That's me.
Yeah. Oh, hi. Okay, great. does the other person have a camera?
Nah.
Don't believe so.
My laptop's at his girlfriend's house.
Nice.
Okay. All right. Do you could both take some time to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure.
I'll go
Name's
first.
Uni.
My name's
Oh.
Hal. I do debates online sometimes, like philosophy. That's it.
Name's Uni. I'm a semi-professional cricket player from Australia, living in Pakistan. Like to debate things on the internet.
Okay, look, I gotta say, I'm already biased. That accent's beautiful. All right, I'm sorry.
I knew it. I told him this before. He's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna talk about that, bro." I knew that shit.
Only person.
We talked earlier, and Hal agreed that I would go first.
Right. Go ahead.
Before that, I want Toyola, if you could introduce the topic that they're gonna be.
Oh, so it's a bit of an interesting one. Hal is going to convince Uni that there are real objective morals, and Uni's going to tell him that he's wrong.
Okay. All right. I'll love to see it. Please go ahead.
Sure. Just want to say thanks, guys, for hosting this. It's really fun. I'll jump into it. So, moral anti-realism is the argument that there are no objective moral truths about the universe. I believe this to be the case, as the argument in favor of moral realism relies on wild assumptions about the universe that are impossible to prove. It assumes morality is not a human invention, and that our perception of morals do not influence the validity of them. Personally, reason is what is important to me, and not obscure moral facts. Who is to say objective morals are logical? Who is to say we should agree with them being the right course for humanity? To say that they are is another assumption about the fabric of reality that can never be proven. There is no reason for searching for unprovable facts. Realists say we should acquire true beliefs, but what is the best method? And if there are true beliefs, how could they even be measured? In the absence of provable moral facts, what is the best move going forward to achieve reason, as opposed to striving toward the unknown? The human experience seems to be one of moral anti-realism. In experience, we do not act upon objective moral truths. However, we act upon what we think and what we believe to be correct. How could a realist argue for anything to be moral without knowing the objective truth of the morals they claim to exist? They must acknowledge the anti-realist position is the only one that we naturally fall towards, and the only one that leads us towards moral progress. What do we do when we disagree on what could be the objective facts of morality? Under a realist mindset, you have two opinions, both claiming to be the objective truth. There is no room for argument when both parties believe they have found objectivity. There is no proof or disproof of either claim of fact. That's my opinion.
All right. How?
All right, how's my mic?
I can
Little
hear
low.
you.
A little low? Okay, wait. I'm gonna try something real quick. All right, how's it right now?
There
Better.
you go. That's sexy.
Much better.
All right, cool.
Yes,
Okay. All right. I realize I have an uphill battle. Okay. People believe that morals aren't real. Okay, for some reason. DGG has infected everybody with a disease known as moral skepticism. Okay, this is a cancer. We need to eliminate it. All right. Okay. So here's my cure for this cancer that has taken a hold of Uni. Okay. So my argument for moral realism is a version of the companions and guilt argument. And within this argument, I have 3 premises, then conclusion. Prior to stating these premises and the conclusion, I will say exactly what categorical normative reasons are, as it's like present in every premise. So categorical normative reasons, which I will refer to as categorical norms from this point, to avoid the mouthful and me misstepping. Categorical norms are normative reasons for agents to do things or have certain attitudes irrespective of their preferences. Okay? So, regardless of what somebody's preferences are, these normative reasons still exist. Okay? It's important to note that these reasons
Wait,
for agents...
buddy? Hello? What did you just do to your
right
mic?
there.
You were...
It is important to understand.
Yeah.
Oh. Is it bad now?
Oh, yeah, you're back.
Okay, cool. Whoa. Yeah, it does that sometimes. Let me know. You know how it goes. Sorry, not everybody's as rich as this pedophile on camera right now. So
Okay.
Okay, so categorical norms are normative reasons for agents to do things or have certain attitudes, irrespective of their preferences. Okay, so it is important to note of categorical norms that these reasons for agents to act or believe are ontologically independent of these agents' preferences. When I say ontology, I am just referring to like what is real or what is actually in existence. Okay, so again, that these reasons for agents to act or believe are ontologically independent of these agents' preferences. This is what makes morals real, or this is a property that they have that make them real. Okay, now we'll get into the argument. So, first premise: epistemic and moral reasons have the same ontological properties as both are categorical normative reasons. And then these, I believe that they're both categorical normative reasons because one is a reason to believe and one is a reason to act. After this, we have modus ponens. If P, then Q. P, therefore Q. If epistemic categorical norms exist, then moral categorical norms exist, as they both have the same ontological properties. That's premise 2. Premise 3 is that epistemic categorical norms really do exist. Therefore, conclusion, moral categorical norms exist. If anybody has any questions, let me know. That's my argument. I yield the rest of my time.
Okay, so this is what I meant before when I was talking about how moral realists have to assume on beliefs about the universe that they could never prove. So I would ask my opponent, do you know that objective truth when it comes to morality exists?
Sorry, 1 second. Judge asks how to repeat his argument. I guess that last bit of the argument.
It was like incoherent or
Bro, suck my dick, bro. Wait,
Yeah,
let me
like
just ask you a
TLDR.
question real quick.
TLDR?
Yeah, sure. Uni, do you think it's objectively wrong to rape children?
I have an attitude towards raping children that it is a bad thing that we shouldn't do it. I would
Okay,
never
yeah,
claim
attitude.
to
You're
know.
a fucking bitch, bro.
Hey,
Okay,
I
my
would-
argument. Wait, he asked for my argument. Let me say it.
Okay, you did ask me a question.
Wait, shut the fuck up. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Shut the fuck
Okay,
up.
all right.
Listen.
First off, cool out. Right, all right.
Pardon.
How that wasn't what
So-
you were supposed to do, but go ahead and like TLDR your argument for us, please.
Okay. So premise 1, and then I'll say the modus ponens part again. Premise 1: epistemic and moral reasons have the same ontological properties. Modus ponens: if epistemic categorical norms exist, then moral categorical norms exist. Epistemic categorical norms do exist, therefore moral categorical norms exist. That's a summary of my argument. If you want me to say it in like really lay terms, I can.
I
No,
think
I
for the
think that's
benefit
okay.
of the audience and myself, I would appreciate if you did use
Okay,
layman
sure.
terms.
So, if we have like objective reasons for knowledge, if we have objective standards for that, which I believe that we do, then they have the same qualities as moral norms or reasons to do something. This is
Why
because.
do you believe that we have those?
Let me
objective-
fucking finish, you fucking idiot. This is because.
Jesus, are you okay?
moral
Yo,
norms-
hey, let's cool
Holy
out
shit.
and Oni, if you don't mind, like while he's
My
going,
apologies.
Yeah. Okay. Good job. Okay, so moral norms are simply reasons to act. Epistemic norms are reasons to believe. This is why I believe that they have the same ontological properties or properties of being, because we can't really find epistemic norms out in existence, just like we can't find moral norms out in existence. We're not seeing good out there in a fucking tree. We're not seeing epistemic norms such as modus ponens, law of non-contradiction. We're not seeing that out in the world. Like we don't find this. So I am saying that they're as metaphysically spooky as one another. So if we accept epistemic norms for belief, then we
Why should
must
we accept that?
Why should we accept epistemic norms for belief?
Yeah, like you're
Okay.
making a lot of claims, but I haven't seen any justification for any of them.
I'm giving
That's
the
what I
argument.
said before. You're
So
based in
wait.
assumptions.
Right. I understand, but like unless you're finished, we'll let Uni respond.
No,
and
I can
then-
answer his question that he just had.
Okay, go ahead.
So So why would we believe in objective epistemic norms? There's two things to this. If you don't believe in objective epistemic norms, then there is no objective reason to believe in your form of epistemic anti-realism.
So I'm not exactly an epistemic anti-realist. I believe there are some things that we can actually know about the world, but I don't believe that one of these things is morality. So I don't think that moral judgments. So moral judgments are beliefs.
Bro,
We
stop
definitely agree
rambling.
on this. But I
let
don't
him
think
finish.
that.
Let him finish.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
don't think the beliefs that we have about moral judgments are ever going to be necessarily true, independent of how humans function, right? So I believe morality only exists within humanity. I don't think it's like this fact that can be found anywhere else. I haven't found any evidence for that. And you can like spur all the bullshit that you're saying before. Like, I mean, maybe I'm actually just fucking stupid, but I didn't track anything that you were saying before. There was no
Yeah, because you're a
evidence.
fucking retard.
So
Okay,
there was
let me talk.
there was no evidence.
Hey,
Yeah, I mean,
Kyle, wait, one second.
Let's go back to old DGG TOS real quick.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
yes,
God.
please.
I know we just got that one freed, but let's
oh,
keep
crikey.
that one locked up for a while.
We're not in DGG. We're in Cayes here, and then I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's banned or not, but we're going to be safe. Let's keep all slurs and insults to a minimum. I mean, like certain stuff is okay, but that's crossed the line.
Let's keep
And
slurs to a none.
Yeah, make fun of his mom or some shit, right? Like just like
Yeah, like this it's demonstrating like he's clearly
Bro,
come
this dude is
totally
legit on a
unprepared.
first grader level.
Calm down. I know.
It's
like
like
his
arguing
dad.
with an animal.
All right. So
What is
how
going
if you
on?
want to respond to what he said without the slurs?
Thank you.
Then you
Thank
go
you.
In fairness, I wasn't finished. He did interrupt me
what-
to use a slur.
Let's give him a moment if you don't
Bro,
mind.
you're a bitch.
He clearly needs it.
Okay, so if you do believe in these epistemic, like if these real epistemic standards, and this has the same ontological properties as moral norms, epistemic norms as well. Just use those two labels in your mind. What is the delineation here? Because my whole argument is that if one exists, then the other one must exist because they are ontologically the same.
Can you justify that at all?
Yes. So I say that they're ontologically the same is because we can't find both in nature. We can find both through reason. And the reason why I'm saying we can find morals through reason or moral fact through reason is because of epistemic norms existing.
So you wait, you actually think that we can know something is like a morally true fact? You think we can actually find these objective morals?
I believe that our capability is there, but I don't know how to. And that's not the onus is on me to say that.
Why do you believe that we are capable of doing it? Like what method? Without because like you said that we can know these moral truths. You're saying we know. So you're saying we know moral truths. What evidence do you see?
No. We don't know moral truths. I never said that.
Okay, you said we can know them, right? So what evidence have you seen from like the human experience that leads you to believe that we can find these moral truths? Do you think that we have found any? Do you believe that you know a moral truth currently?
No.
Okay, so this is why I say that like when we're talking about like the human experience, clearly the human experience is dictating to us that regardless of whether these objective truths actually do fucking exist, at the moment we're incapable of finding them, right? And whether we could find them, who's to say that we necessarily have to agree with them? You say that you don't know an objective moral truth. So can you tell me that it is objectively immoral to rape a child? The example you gave earlier.
My definition of morals or metaethics allows room for raping a child to be bad. Yours necessarily restricts it.
So do
I know that moral objectivity allows for something to be objectively bad? Yes, I do.
Do you know that the heinous act that you described, do you know that this is morally bad? Do you know this is an immoral action to take? You know that it could be, right? Or at least you claim that you know that it could be. But do you actually know that it is?
Do I know that it's objectively wrong?
Yeah.
No. Just subjectively.
Okay, so then why would you come at me?
Because you're restricting even the mere possibility of.
Okay, so how? I'll follow it up with a different question, right? If we did discover objective moral truth, and the objective moral truth said that it was okay to engage in that action, would you therefore agree that it's a good thing?
Yeah, we would both agree to that.
I would not. Regardless,
you just said earlier if we found moral facts, we would have to agree with it.
No, I didn't. I
Oh, you just
literally
contradicted yourself.
in my opening
That's
statement,
embarrassing.
I can
Dude,
read it
no,
again.
no, it's cool, it's cool. Let's
In my
forget that.
opening
Let's forget that
statement,
happened.
I can read it again.
I don't care. You just said that like 5 minutes
said
ago.
All right. Okay,
that-
hold on.
Yeah.
Go
If
ahead,
we
Alfie.
were to discover these objective moral truths, I have no compulsion to agree with them, to say that these are things that I believe in. If the objective moral truth were to say that it is okay to rape a child, I would be able to, as a moral anti-realist,
Wait.
disagree
Why
with
wouldn't
that.
you agree with that if reason is taking you there?
Because
would you
I
say
don't
that
believe.
Why
Why
did you
do
say
you
all
say that
you did-
reason is taken? Why do
How
you
else
say
would we
that
find out moral objectivity?
Why do you say that reason would take us to objective moral truth? How are you to know? Why do you assume that objective moral truth is going to be reasonable?
Why would I assume that objective moral truth would be reasonable?
Yeah, why do you think this?
I don't know. It seems like
I'll answer it for
the
you.
only possible
No,
way we can find it
let
out.
him answer.
The only possible way that we can find out like something that pertains to what we ought to do, or like anything normative, is through reason. I don't think like if we see something and we're unable to process it, or like we're just processing it without reason, then that thing is meaningless to us.
Okay, so you think that because we must reason towards moral truth, but again, this is literally a baseline assumption about how the objective facts of the universe go. I don't think you could possibly actually know that it is morally reasonable to find objective truth. There's nothing that you can tell me, that you can provide, that would come close to demonstrating that objective truths are going to fit your subjective reasoning that you have as a
I never
human.
said it would be.
So then how would you
I
say...
legit give you I gave you a completely different standard of that, actually. It's something that seems objectively something that seems wrong to me, and I said later on that not later on, something that seems wrong to me, and I say it's wrong in my everyday language. And then if you said it was objectively right, or good, then I said yes, I would agree to that. I don't know.
Okay, but so the objective good, is that reliant on your human experience?
I don't know.
Okay, because my understanding of a moral realist is someone who believes that moral facts are independent of humanity. Would you agree or disagree with this claim?
Yeah.
Okay, so then why are you relying on human reasoning to tell us what is morally
We
good?
could tap into that. Like we tap into epistemic beliefs. Exactly.
Why would we do that? But you just told me that objective truth does not rely on human reasoning. So why would we use human reasoning to try and justify what is objectively true?
I don't think that epistemic truths are reliant on human reasoning either. I believe that we're tapping into that.
So our reason, right? You are telling me that this does not equate to objective moral truth, right?
No. Wait. Our reason does not equate to objective moral truth. I believe it holds like similar qualities.
Why?
Because I'm going to tell you with a capital R.
So you're telling me that your assumption about the reality of objective facts in the universe is that they must be reasonable.
Yeah. Because I believe that they have the same properties as epistemic truths.
Why would you, as a human, be able to know this?
Because they bear the same epistemic qualities. I mean, the same standards for epistemic qualities.
The point here is that these moral facts are unprovable, and you say they exist regardless of our ability to reason. So, well, do you think they're provable?
I'm an agnostic on that.
Okay, so then I think that they're
what they are, I'm
It's
agnostic on that. I believe that they exist.
I don't think they actually.
I
don't think they exist. If I don't think something exists, I don't think it can be proven. So, as I was saying, you're talking about how objective moral fact exists regardless of human reasoning. And then you tell me, well, we can find objective moral fact through human reasoning. Right?
Yeah.
This doesn't compute to me. Because
so where is it going wrong for you? Like, where is your malfunction between the sameness between epistemic standards for belief and moral standards for action? Like, what is the disanalogy there?
Well, I just don't see why we would use reason to find facts about something that doesn't require it.
Okay,
especially when it comes to morality.
No, wait, stop. Use your brain. Think about it for a second. Do not talk, okay? Do not talk for a whole minute after I say what I'm about to say, okay?
Actually, okay.
All right. Calm down.
What is going on with this?
Calm down. Just
free.
Go ahead and say your thing. Say your thing.
You know how it can be. Okay,
I got you, bro. I got you. Do your thing.
Okay. So, I want you to actually think about this for a couple seconds, okay? So, I am saying that epistemic standards for belief are ontologically the same as moral standards for action. Okay.
With zero justification, right?
Wait.
No,
Just-
because they have the same fucking qualities.
With zero justification that they have the same qualities, right?
No, they have the same qualities because they're just reasons to do prime. Prime implying not prime case. Prime implying some like action or belief. They're reasons to do X. That is the same qualities
you think
that they have.
so you're talking about how a reason to do X, that reason is objective, yeah?
That reason is objective.
Is
Like,
that reason then necessarily moral?
Is that reason then necessarily moral? No, I believe it's categorically normative.
Okay, so if that's the case, that you're telling me the reason to do this thing isn't objectively moral, why would you say that the reason itself proves that objective morality exists?
The reason to act, that would be objectively moral. I don't know what that reason is, though.
So
I'm not going to say that the reason to believe is objectively moral.
So you
It's
think
a
that
categorical
the
norm,
reason
but it's not
the
objectively
reason to
moral.
act the reason to act is an objective moral claim?
The reason
The
to
reason
act,
for any of us to act? Like, I just don't see how you can.
No. Not all categorical norms are all reasons to act. Just categorical norms are like all categorical norms are reasons to act, but not all reasons to act are categorical norms.
Okay, I still.
If you want, I can type that out.
What you're telling me, right, is just
Wait,
it's
did
not
you understand what
translating
I
to
just
any.
said?
It's what you're telling me isn't actually translating to
Bro, you're
proving your
lost.
argument that objective morality exists as independent of human reasoning.
I
Right?
okay, I am telling you
So
that
would you say that the facts about morality are as certain as the facts about the size of the sun?
as certain, like if we can find it out, like okay,
No,
so
no.
I don't believe
the
that we can.
objective fact.
Yeah, I don't
There is
believe.
an objective fact to the matter about the size of the sun, right?
Yeah, and
it
I
has
believe
a
it's the same
diameter, it
thing-
has a
I-
width, okay?
Yeah, I
But-
completely agree. I believe the same exact thing for moral facts. I just don't know how to do that. But I do believe I can describe a process for the sun. But just because I can't describe a process for one of them doesn't mean that it's false, not real, whatever, what have you.
So your belief in moral realism is unfounded in any
No, it is
provable
based
evidence.
off of us being able to know how big the sun is. It is based off of the epistemic standards that we have come to know, which are
Why do
identical
we-
to moral
how?
standards.
How are we able to know what the size of the sun is?
I failed science.
Because we can see it, right? Because it's something
Oh,
that we can
shit.
interact with, and it interacts with us, right?
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
tangible. That is why we know what the size of the sun is, or at least we can estimate. We are not able to interact with morality in a tangible fashion. The reasoning that you give for why we can measure the sun does not apply to the reasoning you give as to why we can measure objective morality.
I understand. So my point is that like us being able to trust our methodological processes, and say that some of these processes are objective, shows that because they have the same qualities as moral standards, shows that moral standards do exist.
So, what are the same qualities that the sun has?
No,
that
not the
objective
sun.
moral
The
truth has?
the processes of tracking it, of like
Right, but
saying
what
it is.
process do we use to measure the sun?
What process do we use? I'm talking about more fundamental epistemic standards to process to do the sun shit.
Okay,
So,
well
like,
then explain
that-
those.
Okay, yeah, it would be like logical like premises, shit like that.
Yeah, so things that we actually cannot apply to our perception of morality.
Things that we cannot apply to our perception of morality.
Yeah. So if there's no humans, would you
No.
say that morality still exists?
I'm agnostic on that.
I don't
I
know how
think-
you can
I
be as a
think
moral realist because your belief is that moral facts are not dependent on humanity. So I don't know
Well,
how you can
to
be
be fair-
agnostic.
okay,
Yeah,
wait.
hang on a second. I don't know how
To be
you
fair,
can be agnostic
wait, let
on
me
that
say
fact.
why. You can't just ask like 3 questions, okay? I'll tell you why. I am agnostic on that. But if you want, I can just take the realist position and lean towards that, which I do
Well,
actually.
you should
lean towards.
argue what you're
Let me
here to
tell you
argue,
fucking
and you're
why.
failing to do that.
Let me tell you fucking why, okay? So, when I said categorical norms, it was saying that it was independent of these agents' preferences, desires, dispositions, etc. Okay? So, if it's independent, like so an example is, let's say I hate humans, right? But I see a human drowning in a pool, right? There's still that moral ought there, even though I hate humans. And that's what I meant by that. But if you want me to take the stronger position that they're existing like to
I want you to
all
take a
humans, no matter
position.
what.
Because right
I
now
just-
you're telling me you haven't taken a position. You're literally asking me which position you should take. I'm sorry, that is not my job
then
to
I'll
tell
just
you.
take that.
You should come here with a position that you're able to defend.
No, this
you
isn't
have no
necessary for my
position.
argument.
You have no
fucking
evidence.
Idiot.
Okay?
This isn't necessary for my argument. This is
So
not a
you
necessary
don't-
condition.
You don't think that whether or not moral facts are dependent on humans is necessary in the argument about objective morality? I'll just ask you a true or false question, okay? All right. True or
Sure.
false? What judgments are true or false is not reliant on humanity.
What judgments are true or false is not reliant on humanity. Yeah, sure, it's true. It's not
Okay.
reliant.
So then you're not agnostic on this belief.
Yeah. I would agree with. I'll just say that for the sake of argument. Yeah.
Well, you should say it because it's what you're here to argue,
I
and
don't.
you
I don't
literally
give a
weren't
shit. I'll
even
say that for the
aware
sake
of your own
argument.
position.
I'm not as arrogant as you to like believe in something that I don't believe in.
Alright,
So
my
I'll
point-
use that argument.
My
so at that
point is,
moment, it's
go for it.
almost you're kind of conceding the point.
Yeah,
No,
it
no,
absolutely
wait.
is.
Wait. How am I conceding the point if I'm saying that epistemic truths are independent to us, and I'm also saying that moral truths are independent to us?
Well, earlier you said that you were agnostic on whether or not moral truths were independent of us.
Yeah, and
So you've changed your position mid-debate.
I would say I was leaning towards that, but I wouldn't say that like it's changing that position.
Well, of course you wouldn't say that because it would make you look stupid, and you've been attacking my intelligence
that's
and
not a
my
necessary
ability this
condition
whole
for.
time.
No, that's not a
So
necessary
now it's not a
condition.
necessary condition.
It's
But
never
10
been.
seconds ago, you just said it was.
It's never been. The
Okay, I'll
epistemic
ask you
standards-
again. I'll ask you again.
No,
Are-
it's quite no.
are
I
moral
believe
truths-
if I had to give true or false, I would say it's true. But if there was a third position that was agnostic, because I don't even know if epistemic standards are true,
you
independent
don't-
of humans.
So you don't know. It just sounds like you're unprepared for this argument.
No,
You're unaware of
I'm
your
giving
position.
you the arguments. I'm saying yes to it. But if you're asking what I really think, then I'm telling you that. But I'm saying that truths are independent of moral reason. I'm saying that morals are independent of moral reason.
So morals are independent of moral reason, but isn't your whole
I mean,
argument that...
human reason.
I don't know, man. How am I supposed to debate you when you're slithering around, right? I'm unable to actually nail
I just
you on a
said
point.
epistemic standards
don't
are
have a
independent. Okay. If you want to keep
Repeat,
posturing, that's cool.
repeat what you just said. Howard.
But I would say that epistemic standards are independent of us. Okay.
Okay.
And I would
I'm
also
glad
say
that you've now come
that
to
moral
this conclusion.
standards. I said true to that like 5 minutes ago. And moral
You
standards
said
are
you were
also
agnostic.
independent to
Hold
us.
on, let him finish.
My apologies.
I would also say that moral standards are independent to us.
Okay, so moral statements are independent to us. I'm fine. I'm glad that I thought that was your point the whole time, but now that you know it's your point, we can actually continue with this
I
conversation.
don't know. I'm doing it for the sake of argument.
What? I'm very confused as
I
to
never
what
said
you're
I changed
doing
my
right
position.
now.
I'm saying if it was true or false, I would pick true. But that
But aren't
doesn't
you a
mean I
moral
have my mind's
realist?
wrapped up on it.
Are you not a moral realist?
Yes.
Okay, so as a moral realist, my understanding is you cannot be agnostic on the statement of
I
whether
just
or
said
not...
I will accept it for the sake of argument. I don't know why you keep harping on this. You're like getting all
Okay,
confused.
I'm glad-
You're trying to get
I'm
out
glad-
into the weeds and not talk about it. Let's just talk about the.
Okay, so we
positions I
can...
gave
Okay,
you
we'll
for the
move
sake of
forward.
argument.
We will move forward with your assumption that moral judgments are true and they can be true independent of humans. Right? Moving forward. Now, I think I asked you this before, but I wasn't exactly satisfied with the answer you gave me. All right?
Sure.
If we are referring to moral, objective truths being something independent of humanity, why should humanity adhere to this if it's not even reliant on us? We don't need it. It doesn't need us.
I never said that they should rely on them.
Well, I'm asking you. So, wait, you don't think that we should play towards moral, objective truth?
Yeah, I'm skeptical towards like why should we accept them, but I do agree that they're there and they're reasons to act.
Okay, that's very interesting to me that as a moral realist, you would say we are not obliged to act in a way that is accordance with objective moral truth.
Yeah.
Well, that just seems antithetical to the moral realist position. You sound like you are a moral anti-realist. You are telling me...
That's not moral anti-realism. Like, why...
Well, let me explain.
Like,
so
you're skeptical as to
me...
why we should follow these? Yeah, I don't give a shit.
Okay, so you don't think that we should follow... You're agnostic on the position. So you're agnostic on the position that we should follow objective moral truth.
Yes.
That is my argument as an anti-realist. I believe
you're saying that they don't exist.
Hold on.
My belief is that regardless of the facts of moral objective truth, if it exists independent of humanity, there is no reason for humanity to want to fall with this. Okay? The example I gave earlier absolutely points this out. If it was objectively morally true that we should kill all of humanity, as an anti-realist, I feel no obligation to fulfill this. I would have no need, I would have no want, and I would have no reason to do so. There is no. I'll just let you respond to that.
Yeah, I don't care about this point. It's not necessary for my position. I can imagine a world where everybody's not driven to follow these moral norms, and I'm agnostic if we need to be bounded by them. I think that we should be, but I don't have a real position on that because I'm epistemically humble, unlike Uni.
It seems to me, well, as a moral realist, to say you're epistemically humble is
I gave you the
humorous.
reason why, and you still haven't said why it's wrong. Why
Well,
moral facts exist? You're
okay,
just going
I
all over
don't-
the place. You still won't like talk to me about
I
my
don't. I
argument.
feel like I'm being straightforward and honest. I'm trying to tell you what I actually
No,
do believe.
no. You just made a comment that
It's
said
regardless. It's
okay.
regardless.
No. You
Regardless
just made a
of whether or
comment
not.
that said you just made a comment that said that I am not listening to reason or something of that sort when I say that that moral standards do exist or that moral standards are real. And you're now saying, and you never said to me as to why my argument prior was bad or wrong.
As an anti-realist, I have a belief about the subjectivity of morality and whether or not is it objective. I do not claim to know these facts. I do not even believe that objective moral facts exist. So I'm not going to tell you that there's a reason for them or a reason not.
No,
for
a
them.
reason against them.
Yeah, my reason. I have.
So my
okay,
reason-
I'll give you
okay,
one of my
wait.
reasons against.
So my
it.
reason.
Hold on,
okay.
hold on, how? He said, yeah.
Thank you.
Your
For
reason
my
against it.
reason against the idea of moral facts existing independent of humanity is that it seems to me that we conceived of morality independent of any other subject, right? It wasn't something that we dug up in the ground. It was something that was concocted in the mind of man. When we talk about objective moral facts existing within the universe, a majority of philosophers that talk about objective moral fact will say that this is good. Objective moral fact is what is good, and we should follow what is good.
Hey,
do you agree with that?
Before we move on, it seems like we're focused on these this one point, right? Are there other grounds you two can argue on? Because it seems like I'm not sure we're moving anywhere.
Okay, sure. I can go for that. I'll say that
you can answer the question how that was presented to you, but then from there we can maybe move on.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, because we're kind of looping.
Okay. So you still haven't told me why these facts would not exist if they're exactly the same, ontologically the same as epistemic standards. Okay?
In
You
the
just
same
said,
way that.
Let me talk.
Yeah, hold
okay?
on.
So epistemic
question.
So epistemic standards are independent to us, which is what you're saying is spooky about moral standards. And I'm saying that they have the same exact quality. So epistemic standards, as you said earlier in the debate, do exist, and moral standards have the exact same quality, so they must exist.
All right.
Well, I don't believe
So
fundamentally.
you're saying.
Do you want to let me answer this question? You've presented
I'll
two.
let you answer after I say one sentence.
Actually, we're supposed to be moving on. I know we
Okay,
gave
cool.
how. Yeah.
I can. We can rest on that, and I'll bring us forward to the next topic inside of this debate. Hal, I want to ask you: do you think that the human experience that we interact with seems to rely more on moral realism or moral anti-realism? Which do you think is more natural to human brains?
Moral realism.
Okay. Would you like to justify that?
What is more natural? Yeah. If I say to somebody like, "Oh, do you believe in like objective morals?" Well, I might be biased because I'm a college student. They would necessarily say like, "Oh, it's subjective. You know, people have their own preferences, stuff like that. You know, shit like that." And I say like, "Okay, what if I rape your mom?" Okay, they're gonna say, "Well, no, that's bad. That's bad." Okay, what if I rape your mom in a different country, different culture, different reasons, different norms for believing of what you ought to do? They would say that's wrong, even if it like occurs in a different society. Like,
And
if
how
I
do
start,
you think this person? Sorry, if you're not finished, go ahead.
okay, so maybe something that's more airtight. If I say like, oh, well, like cultures, like those are just like the basis for morals, okay? And I say like in Saudi Arabia that I rape children on the regular. I would say like I feel like that person would then backtrack on that position and say, oh no, that's wrong. That's just like objectively wrong. Like it doesn't matter if that's okay in your society. That's just wrong. So that's
How would
that's
you
why I believe
disprove
that's
someone?
subjective.
How would you disprove someone that you ask in a different culture that says it is objectively moral for me to engage in child marriage, for example?
I don't need to answer that.
Sure, you don't have to, but I think it reflects
No, no,
poorly
no.
on your
For
argument.
no. As a necessary condition for my for moral realism, I don't need to answer how
Yeah, sure.
these
You don't have to, right? But I think it reflects poorly that you're not even able to give a minutia of a justification. Because what I'm gonna
I don't care. That's not
propose
crucial
here,
about my position.
Hold on,
what,
Hal. Hold on. Let him,
what I'm
go
going to
ahead.
propose here is that you're talking about an individual who is telling you their moral belief system and they are rooting it in what they may or may not consider an objective fact. But then, if we look at the experience of someone in a different culture who is then simultaneously claiming that they're doing it for an objective fact, seems like the reality of the situation is that their morals are subjective.
No, well, one of them just like has to be wrong if they're like holding contradictory beliefs, or
So,
they can
what is
both
the
be wrong.
contradiction?
A is good. Negation A is good. That's a contradiction. Like let's say well, I think not raping is good, and somebody else says raping is good. That's a contradiction. Even if we're like between societies, so one necessarily has to be wrong, and it's possible
Where does that
that
contradiction lie? Because my proposition is always going to
that
be
if morals are
that the
real, there has to be
contradiction
true or false.
the contradiction lies in the feelings of both of these individuals, regardless of whether or not objective moral facts exist somewhere in the universe. I believe it impossible, or at least extremely unlikely, and I've seen zero evidence to suggest that we would ever be able to actually attain this. So, in the meantime, while we aren't able to attain objective morality, everyone is going to be dealing with their own subjective
Dude, this is
belief
like a political
of
argument.
what
Who the fuck
morality
cares?
is.
This is just a pragmatic argument. Like I don't,
Yeah,
I
so
don't
I
care about this
believe
shit.
that you can say you don't care about it, but if we're talking about how morality plays out practically in people's everyday experience, I think discussing pragmatism is actually quite important to that topic.
Yeah, I don't give a shit.
Well, sure, you
Alright.
don't have to give a shit, but you know,
It's not
is
necessary for
there
my argument. Shut the fuck up.
is there
All right.
anything? Is
Yeah, yeah, that's a
sorry,
great
Fred, go
question.
ahead.
No. I was just about to ask. That's a great question. Go ahead.
Cool, thank you. I would like to say, if you don't have any other thing, do you feel like you've made all the statements necessary for your arguments, Hal? Because it seems like you feel like you have.
Yeah, my argument was just what I said prior. You haven't argued against it at all.
All right.
I believe in that
so-
argument because I believe in the conclusion. Morals are real.
All right. So if you don't mind, go ahead and make your closing statement. I'll give you the floor, Hal.
Okay, cool. So I'll run through my argument again for the 10 people who are listening. If I have made you doubt,
237.
oh yeah, you're right. For the 10 people who are actually listening, to like somebody who's a moral realist, because I understand that we come from like a skeptosphere. I will say my argument again. If I made you doubt subjective morality or moral anti-realism, I'm glad. Premise one: epistemic and moral reasons have the same ontological properties, as they are both categorical norms. One is a reason to believe, and the other is a reason to act. If epistemic categorical norms exist, then moral categorical norms exist. But epistemic categorical norms do exist, therefore moral categorical norms exist. Okay? This is my argument for moral realism. Again, to the 10 people that listened and that heard me out with this boner of a topic, thank you.
All right. Uli, you have the mic.
Sure, thank you. I'll just finish off by saying that personally, reason is what is important to me, right? Not some unfindable objective moral facts that we cannot agree or disagree on because we do not have access to them. I think practically we act as moral anti-realists, and I think that, you know, when you're looking at all the arguments presented, okay, there's no evidence or hard proof for either side, but I do not claim through a linguistics game that my theory and my belief is ultimately entirely correct. Whereas my opponent, the moral realist, believes that through stating things that are baseless about the fabric of reality and how we deal with objective truth, thinks that's an argument, but unfortunately, it's just an assumption. Thank you very much. And thanks for hosting this, by the way.
Okay, this is also on you, buddy.
Okay, yeah. Thanks so much for that. Well, this was pretty entertaining. So before we announce, do you guys want to give out your socials or wherever they can find you, or maybe shout someone else out, whatever you like?
Go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Plug.
Okay, so I don't have any socials. If you live in Pakistan, come to a cricket game in Islamabad one day. We might run into each other. It could be funny. Be interesting to run into someone like that. Hang out in the Destiny Discord. It's actually pretty fun. There's some toxic stuff that goes on in there, but overall the community is actually very supportive. Except fuck Hamu and fuck J-Boz. Thank you very much.
Yo.
All right. Okay, Uni. Thank you for putting up with my shit. Had to give the viewers a couple of reasons to watch. You know what I mean?
You're a good
You know what I'm
showman.
saying? Okay. Those two losers before us, boring as fuck, bro. Okay.
I like both of them. I think they're good people.
Yeah, they're good people. Love Lactoid. Great guy. Smart guy.
This is how you use your time.
Free. Suck my dick, bro. Okay, I don't have any socials. I'm a fucking loser. My Discord is #4638. Add me if you want to talk philosophy or tell me why I'm wrong on moral realism. I would love that. Also, big ups to Uni. Great sport. Sorry for coming at you so often.
It was all good. I just don't think it served your arguments.
All right, thanks, guys. We appreciate it, man.
All good. Thank you very much.
Toyola?
Enjoy the rest of the stream. Oh, wait.
Yeah, the winner has to be announced.
Now that we have our closing statements and our show is coming to a bit of a lull, it's time to let you know that in a looks like unanimous decision, the winner is going to be hailing from Pakistan today. He is reigning from Australia. It is Uni.
Fuck!
Who's going to take the W.
Thank you very much. Oh, just one last thing. Hal said he would drop out of his undergrad if he lost to me.
No. That was my graduate. That was my graduate.
He just got swept. Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Bro, J-Mus, what the fuck?
Yo,
Thank you, everybody.
Take it easy.
Okay, all right. Well, that was a moment in time. All right, that was really funny. Okay, so
great.
Hmm?
They were great.
Yeah, I think they were absolutely fantastic. We're waiting on our last competitors. Hopefully they will be here quite soon. But yeah.
While we got a moment, can I get a shameless plug in for my podcast?
Please go ahead.
If y'all don't mind, check out Things People Don't Say podcast. It's on Anchor, YouTube, Google Play. It's really cool. So 3 black dudes talking about black dude shit, and it's really funny. You should check it out.
You should toss your link in chat, so people don't have to search for it. Toss your link in chat.
Got you.
I should encourage everyone to do that actually. Yeah. So if you got something to plug, I want everyone to take a look, and we definitely do appreciate what you're doing free. It's actually pretty amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so everyone stick around. We have one more round coming up. We have 2 interesting guests. We're just waiting for them to get here, and we'll go from there. Yeah. 1 second, and we have one of them here. So I guess we'll bring them in just to you could chill here. A little antidepressants.
Hello, how are you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
You're a little quiet. You're just a little quiet.
Let me see if I can fix that by moving closer to the mic. But
okay, yeah, you're not too bad. You're not too bad. Do you have a camera?
I do have a camera. Give me
wow.
1 second.
You're so beautiful. I'm sure.
Hello.
Whoa, hey. Thank you. We're just waiting for your opponent to arrive, then we'll go from there.
Where is she?
Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, I'm assuming she'll be around. Like, she doesn't want to lose on a technicality.
She knows what's going on.
Oh man,
I'd hate to give Auntie a buy around. I really would.
Yeah.
After this happened.
But we've got a fun person, so I'm actually really excited about this next topic, next debate.
Give them a moment. Let them get themselves.
Yep. We're gonna give them a little bit. Okay. So to the audience, while this is happening, to the audience, if you're enjoying this, if you like all of this, well, we stream apparently 7 days a week, usually 6 days, but apparently now 7 days a week.
Can we fill your slot?
Yeah, this is my day off.
We filled his slot, guys. We took his day off.
Yeah. But
Prime.
I thought this was a really good. I thought this was a really good opportunity, and I really want to support this. So this is a lot of fun so far. I'm definitely loving it. So yeah, guys, hit that follow button. We do a lot more of this, right? This will be running for a month, right? Like we have 3 other rounds or 3 other streams on this before we crown winner, right? Yeah. So if you want to stick around, right? So hit that follow button right now. Make sure notifications are on so you know I'm going live. We'll be live tomorrow, Monday, with the Reverie Roundtable, right? That's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. I want you to be a part of that. And we have All Black Everything on Thursday, which is exactly what it sounds like. A bunch of black people. Like I stole a Freeze idea. I'm sorry. So
Bro, I need to slide through on that. Let me get in on the all black everything. That's my wheelhouse right there.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's actually my most fun thing. So check that out. And on Saturdays, we have the small council. And also we have open panels throughout the week. And we game on YouTube, so plenty of stuff here. So yeah, hit that follow button right now. !for social and chat to follow my social media. !social in the chat. We have Twitter. We tweet things. If you didn't know this was happening, you're not following me on Twitter. We announced it. We'll announce future things, and maybe if we are looking for new players, we'll be announcing that on Twitter as well. So check that out. We have Discord. Discord is the heart and soul of our community. Please be a part of our Discord. Jump on in. We love to have you there and be a part of everything there. And of course, YouTube. YouTube is where you will find the VODs. If you missed any of this, I'm going to be uploading it to YouTube. So check it out. And of course, we're gaming there. We're doing Elden Ring. We're having a good time. So come join us. We'd love to have you. And we'll be doing like membership games too. So keep that in mind. Also, yes, thank you, Azanian Nanese, for being so kind, for using your Prime Gaming. Hey. That means a bunch. Thank you for that, for using Prime Gaming on this channel. Guys, if we get 2 more individual donors while we're waiting for our last person, we can start a hype train. While this tournament is fully funded, right? This channel is not. So help us out. So if you want to see this content continue, want to have this place to have all this happen, then be so kind, help us out. Sub to the channel, give bits or give subs. Use your Prime Gaming. If you got it, right? That's one free sub per month. Here on this community, and you'll get our emotes, extra emotes in chat. You'll get ad-free viewing, and you'll be supporting this content, keeping it alive, right? So if you like what you're seeing so far, yeah.
While we're doing plugs, I do want to thank out our humble benefactor, Algomancer. He says that this is brought to you with love and from the heart, Algomancer. So thank him for this, because without him, this would not be possible, even more so without me.
Yeah, shout out to Algomancer helping to support all this, right? So yeah, if you like the channel, like this community, be so kind, help us out like Zinian and some other people did previously, right? Subbing to the channel, and support this community, keep it up and running. Thanks so much. All right, our opponent is here.
Hi.
We can hear you typing anti. Yeah. Anti. Anti. You can't hear us?
Yeah, I think
I
you can hear you.
I can hear you.
Yeah, mute yourself because we can hear you typing.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. All right, yes, we have our guest here. Very excited to have them. All right, my channel's familiar with them. Stardust. Okay, so we are going to give you two an opportunity to introduce yourselves. Right, then we'll introduce the topic. Then we'll jump on it. All right. So why don't we start with Anti? Antidepressants?
So thank you, Free, and thank you, Prime and Toyolo, for this conversation, and thank you to the rest of the judges for their time. Also, thank you, Stardust, for picking up this topic on sort of late notice. For those of you who don't know, the original person that I was meant to have a conversation with on a separate topic backed out of our conversation at the last minute, and Stardust was able to talk to me about a topic that we disagreed on, and we were able to sort this all out. So today I'll be arguing that transracialism and transracial individuals should be accepted as valid, but not only that, that is potentially necessary as a step towards the goal of racial abolitionism. So first, let me define transracialism.
Oh, I mean, I just meant like introduce yourself as a person. Then we'll go into the opening statements. Yeah,
promo, Anti, promo.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Antidepressants. Sometimes going by Anti. A little bit about my background. My undergrad's in economics, my master's is in political economy, and I'm about to pursue my PhD. And I am I guess, head janitor for the DGG Discord.
Ooh, let's go, let's go. Ooh, 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 ooh.
That makes you a lesser janitor, Free.
True.
All right. So next we have our friend Stardust. Stardust, very happy to have you around. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Stardust. I stream and I yell at people sometimes, and I run a panel show once a week on Saturdays where I try to significantly scare my guests. So yeah.
Auntie, people have been asking you to maybe be a little louder or something, maybe get closer to the mic just so that people can hear you a bit better.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Spoken person, which is a really bad thing to be in sort of internet blood sports conversations.
Toyola, if you could be so kind as to introduce the subject.
Okay, so Auntie is going to be arguing in favor of transracialism, something it's valid and just.
Oh, you're cutting
You
out.
cut out. You cut out completely. Didn't hear. Auntie's in favor of transracialism, and that's it.
Is my audio back?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Need I say no more. Auntie is going to be defending transracialism, and Stardust is going to be attacking it. So I think that's all we really need. I really appreciate Stardust coming in clutch with the save here. So let's have at it.
Yeah. Shout out to you. Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we'll get started. I'll lead up to you, Free.
Yeah, go ahead, guys. Let's see. Auntie, since you gave us that entrance earlier, go ahead and get started.
Off of that. So just to recap the initial comments that I made. So today I'll be arguing that transracialism and transracial individuals should be accepted as valid. But not only that transracialism is a potentially necessary step towards the goal of racial abolitionism. So first, let me define transracialism. So transracialism is the identification of a different race other than the race that one was associated with at birth or with their ancestry. In short, is the belief that certain performative components of a particular race, or that a degree of comfort in associating with a particular race due to self-identification, should be held as valid and that we should accept them. The reason why I hold this view, for a large part, is because race is a socially constructed category with little to no substantive basis for its perpetuation, much like gender, and has fluidly changed over the course of history. Who was considered white or non-white was consolidated, then diverged, and then consolidated, and then diverged over time. Groups that were considered white were once considered non-white, and groups that are today considered white are considered a different species of white by other whites. To provide a concrete example of this, we can look to the United States of America, and not even towards like historical examples per se, but a contemporaneous one. So today in the United States, a lot of Latin American individuals do identify as white. There's a concept in sociology called racial decay, where both when a person, say from Cuba, comes to the United States and they consider themselves to be perhaps white passing, or they might align themselves more with like the white experience in the United States, they consider themselves as white. They don't consider themselves as Latin American anymore. It doesn't necessarily mean that they aren't Cuban. It just means that they have transitioned, or they have a belief through self-identification that they're more comfortable using this label. To make this example even more concrete, for those of you within the Twitch community, we can use the case of the popular Twitch streamer Destiny, who many of you know. I would argue that Destiny, while he holds Cuban ancestry, is valid in associating himself with white identity because he feels like the characteristics that he overlaps with have more to do with the social category of whiteness as it stands currently than he does with the Latin community. And I don't think it's appropriate for us to categorically reject his self-identification or to be antagonistic towards him in that capacity. Now, some things that might be a cause for concern for some folks as they're initially hearing my argument. or things that people who are listening to this conversation might push back on is wondering why this sort of non-controversial example of transracialism has led to transracialism being so contested, especially in the United States. The reason why this topic is controversial is because of the inverse scenario, where a person who was born quote unquote white was then able to pursue a quote unquote black identity or another identity associated with a marginalized group and associate with that community. Good example of this is Rachel Dolezal. Rachel Dolezal was mocked, treated like an outcast, and pressured into the point where she's now forced to not be able to accept most jobs. And then included in that is essentially like been compelled into sex work because she has no means of acquiring an income. Part of the reason why it's really difficult for me to accept the fact that we should ostracize people in this way, and why I feel it's problematic in general, is because of the second concept that I mentioned at the onset, which is the concept of racial abolitionism. That is to say that we should strive to the greatest degree possible to move away from race as a descriptor, and not see individuals within a broader society based off of racial groups or classifications, because these are, in essence, meaningless designators. They're completely arbitrary and capricious and oftentimes cause more harm than good. What does this sound familiar? Why is this social categorization argument something that you might have heard before a million times, especially on Twitch or especially among progressives? Well, replace transracial with transgender, replace racial abolitionism with gender abolitionism, and anti-transracial arguments echo the same arguments used against transgender individuals. I would ask my opponent, the judges, and the audience to consider that if Stardust accepts transgender identities as valid and would like to continue to hold that perspective, then she will have to accept that transracialism is equally valid and that it should be defended. If she does not, that argument in favor of arguments in favor of transracialism are equally valid to transgender identities are equally valid to transracial identities, then she needs to provide an argument that applies to transracial individuals that does not apply to transgender individuals, and she has to make an argument that doesn't sound like a turf argument. And I yield my time.
Okay. Thank you, Megamind,
Sorry
for
about
the.
that. Yeah, go ahead, Stardust. I'm sorry.
Yes, I was just saying thank you, Megamind, for the monologue. So I'm going to begin with saying transracialism is a co-opted term from interracial adoption that has come to mean people from one race identifying as another. The original meaning of transracialism was basically interracial adoption, somebody of one race being adopted by a family of another race. Proponents of self-selected transracial identity make the claim that the arguments that support transgender rights support transracial rights. This undermines the fight for gender rights and gender equality. I don't think that we should treat self-identified transracial identity as equivalent to hereditary transracial identity. Big reason, the difference between being transracial and transgender is that transracial identity so racial identity is something that you can look at intergenerationally and see the effects of discrimination intergenerationally. Whereas when you look at somebody who is identifying as a certain gender, for example, a woman, whether they are cisgender or transgender, they still inherit the same discrimination that their mothers faced, right? So I think it actually does undermine the transgender argument. That's what I have to say for now. So.
All right, so Auntie, I'll let you respond to Stardust first, and then I guess
I just immediately ask why intergenerational discrimination matters. I mean, if you are going to make that argument in the case of transgender individuals or transracial individuals, we often hear the argument from trans exclusionary radical feminists that trans people are not real women because they haven't experienced the same kinds of historical injustices that women have faced.
Mhm.
And they haven't necessarily got this shared unity and identity around historical precepts. So
Okay.
I would just ask, why does history matter in this case? If it is the
Yes.
case that a person wants to self-identify, or if they want to engage in a performance so that they're able to enter into the association or that identity, why aren't they able to do so? Why should we stop them from doing so?
Okay. So, first off, I would say that just because you appreciate and partake in a culture doesn't mean that it's necessary for you to identify with that culture. Second thing I would say, the reason why intergenerational inequality matters is because you can look at the outcomes of certain health groups, right? So you can see that in America, Black women are, I believe, 3 times more likely to suffer from child childbirthing complications, right? That's an example of intergenerational inequality that has affected that group, that race, right? Whereas, again, with women, the discrimination that is felt by women is felt equally by cisgender or transgender women. It is inherited equally by transgender and cisgender women, because the intergenerationality doesn't matter as much. If you are identifying and presenting as a woman, you are not going to have the same health disparities as different racial groups you could find will have, or different wealth accumulation, essentially. So,
So I again, sort of two things to that. One is, it seems like your primary concern is transracialism when it is a quote unquote white person and entering into a minority space. You don't have the same concerns with destiny, or somebody who's Latin American, or somebody who's quote unquote white passing calling themselves white, who we would, because of the social construction of race previously, consider them to be Latin American. So would you tell Destiny that he is white, or would you tell Destiny that he is Latin American immutably for all time, no matter whether or not he wants to self-identify
I don't see why he
in
can't
that
be
category?
both. I don't see why he can't be both.
So then why can't a person who is, wait. So if you are a person who is both, right? If you're saying that they can be both, right?
Hmm.
They are moving from one category to another freely,
Not
then they're
necessarily,
not rejecting
right?
transracial.
They've got the inherited the I guess the inherited history and the inherited disparities that come with being part of a minority group, right? But if they're passing as white, then they've got the benefits of passing as white too, right? It's race is one of those things where it's not you're one or the other, right? You can be both.
Yeah, okay, so let's assume, for the sake of context, right, that we don't have like a mixed race individual. We have a person who we have ascribed a certain category to them, right? This
Mhm.
person has decided, for one reason or another, purely through self-identification, that they want to be called this. Would you tell them, fuck you, no, I'm not calling you this. I don't respect the fact that you want to be called this
If
because
it
you
is
haven't been prejudiced enough.
so again, it's not so much about whether so I guess what I would say is that, if let's take an example, right? If it's like a white person trying to identify as black, right? um I would be very wary about allowing that person to identify as black, because when you've got a majority group who is identifying as a minority status, you are um you are having basically you have the risk of one caricatures, right, being made of that minority status. A great example is Ollie London, right, who is a English man identifying as Korean, who is now saying that he's going to get a penis reduction because he wants to be more Korean. I think it's very offensive. Secondly, you also run the risk of people, if they're all of a sudden allowed to identify as a different race. This is something that society has given to you based on what they see, right? And there are certain support structures with that we have created for people in those minority groups, right? So when you have people from a majority group who are going into the space, there's always the potential of somebody displacing somebody who really needs that support structure. And then I had a third point, but I lost it. So I will cede my time to Ian.
Yeah, all I'll say to that is society might give you a race, but society also gives you your gender. Gender
Your parents
is
give you your gender.
your parents give you your gender.
Mm-hmm.
So a
They see your
transgender
sex.
individual.
They see your sex in the
a
hospital,
trans-
and
yeah.
they assign you your gender that way.
Okay, and then this is immutable for all time.
No, it's not.
Okay,
But
so
again,
you can take
there's not the
certain
same
acts away really quickly.
intergenerational. There's not the same
So there's
intergenerational discrimination and health disparities that you get, right?
so first and foremost, assuming, okay, so I'm going to break this down. Assuming that the argument is that society gives you this classification. If it gives you the classification of race, the classification of gender is also a classification. And then the question is whether and to what extent we can break out of that classification and then change that classification over time through either certain actions, through performance, or through self-identification. The second part is when you're
Can you
talking
repeat
about
that?
the
I'm
support
sorry.
structures and the displacement effect, this is, again, I'm going to echo this.
That's a
And
turf
I
argument.
hate to say
Yeah.
it. It is exactly
Yeah.
a turf
That's
argument.
why it's
So
not a
why
main argument. But yeah, the first part, if you can repeat that for me, the first part of your what you're saying.
yeah, so we have these social constructs that are imposed on us by society. Race
Mhm.
is one of them.
Mhm.
Race is one of them, for sure. Absolutely categorically.
Mhm.
The reason why your parents call you a girl, or the reason why your parents call you a boy at birth, isn't because they checked your chromosomes. It's because there's a social imposition where we binarily, typically, no, it's not the case as much anymore, classify people in accordance with certain gender roles or gender norms. This is a
I
societal
disagree.
imposition. Then
Your
what are they
parents
classifying
Your
off of?
parents still make the determination in the hospital after seeing your genitals what gender you are, right? And then when you're growing up, your parents still decide what gender roles they're going to force onto you, right? However,
Yeah,
when you live in society, right, you don't really get a choice when, like, let's say you're a person of color and you get discriminated against. Also, being a certain race isn't just a matter of self identification, right? Or internal identification. It's a matter of how your community and your ancestors have been treated by other people, by institutions, and by governments, right?
yeah,
And that
so
carries
again,
over intergenerationally.
I would say that, like, if I were to be a black person who didn't experience any prejudice, would I still be a black person in your eyes?
Well, you would have still
Would a woman who
possibly
didn't
had
face any
ancestors.
intergenerational discrimination not be a woman anymore?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
If a person, if the defining characteristic is whether and to what extent you personally or this group have experienced intergenerational prejudice and discrimination
Mhm.
as to whether or not you can in turn classify yourself in accordance with that group, then again we are reifying a social construct. We're making this abstract notion of race, this abstract notion of gender, these abstract notions of based on these classifications concretized and real, and we're preventing people from leaving those categories. And I'm going to ask you, in a world where we moved away from these prejudices, or in a world where somebody doesn't have these prejudices that they're facing, would you have these same concerns? Would you say
So
that they're not
my
black, or would you say that they're like, or if we like inevitably reached a point where the black people no longer face any prejudice, they're no longer allowed to like classify themselves in a certain way. They're
I
not
think
allowed
that
to
we
call
have a
themselves white
difference in what our ideal worlds are. So in my ideal world, race is not all of a sudden like completely, and your ethnic background is not all of a sudden unimportant, and you don't suddenly transcend it, right? In my ideal world, you still have that and it's still important to you, but society itself doesn't inflict discrimination against you based on that, right? I don't believe in the abolition necessarily of it, because I feel like people they pass down traditions and things like that that end up being very important to them. It's just the fact that we use these to splinter each other and to discriminate against each other, and I don't think that that's good. I think that the transracial experience, or not experience, but like the actual, these people who identify as one race that they are not, is they are undermining the original like transracial experience, which would be like, again, being adopted into a family of a different race than you, or growing up mixed race, right? These are like things that we can identify as very real transracial identities or experiences, right? Whereas like somebody who feels like they are black or feels like they're Mexican or something, they still don't have, even if they themselves, it's very possible that maybe somebody grows up and doesn't experience any discrimination. There's still going to be some ancestral discrimination, ancestral history, right, that has affected where they are today.
Okay, quick question. Do you believe that a person who opts into a certain nation state, let's say they're an African going into Europe, will never be a European? Will never be able to like share in that common like culture and like
This is
appeal to
actually
like
a
this
great
common
argument that I
tradition
like
or
to
association?
Yes, this is a great argument actually that I like to make, right? I'm somebody of Indian origin and I'm in America and I partake in American culture. And American is a national identity, right? It's not a racial identity. I may partake in white culture, whatever that is, right? And but I would not say that I'm white, right? I may appreciate parts of white culture. I appreciate the oven. I appreciate how easy casseroles are to make, but I'm not white, right? Uh, I may appreciate parts of black culture, but that doesn't make me black. I can say that I'm American though, because that is the national identity.
So this is why it's important for like us to talk about this specifically and what you just brought
Mhm.
up, because again, I'm going to reiterate this because I keep having to hammer it. When you say, "Well, I appreciate feminine culture, but you'll never be feminine," or "I'll appreciate black culture, but I'll never be black," or "I appreciate being a part of like a specific like European subculture, but you'll never truly be a part of that specific European subculture. You're locked into your past identity immutably for all time." I think that this is incredibly problematic on two dimensions. One is it's problematic because it impedes the racial abolitionist movement insofar as I think maybe we have different idealized notions of where the world should go to, but I think that race should not be in any way, shape, or form a defining characteristic as to whether or not you should be able to succeed in life. You agree with me on that part, but additionally within that, culture culture does not distinguish races.
No, it doesn't. It's not just culture, right? It's again, it's a mixture, right? It's culture plus the inherited intergenerational discrimination, the circumstances that your people of that race have had to deal with historically that have placed you, this human being, where you are in society today. Whereas when it comes to gender, they're all women, unless race is brought into the picture. If you just talk about gender, generally women face the same type of discrimination, and a woman who is a trans woman and a cisgender woman are both going to face the same type of, at least when it's directed at them being a woman, it will be the same. Speaking of, like, let's say we separate the trans part, right? Obviously, there's going to be another layer, an additional layer of discrimination that that person faces. But the gender itself, if you are identifying as a woman, you're identifying as a woman. You, whether you are cisgender or transgender, you are going to be facing that same type of discrimination at that point. And you have inherited the same discrimination that your parent, your mother went through. So
Yeah, so I'm gonna ask you within that context. So we're talking about a spectrum associated with a certain category. If you have a person, right? So there's a spectrum even within the Black community, right? People in the Black community will talk about how darker skinned Black folks will have more discrimination that they're facing relative to me, who's lighter skinned. But if somebody, right, were extremely white passing, right, and they decided to call themselves white, I would accept that. There, and in the same way,
white,
somebody
right?
who's extremely white passing, who and like they are calling themselves Black and they're part of, like, say, a Black family, right? I would accept that. The reason why I accept it is because of the fact that this is a meaningless, arbitrary, and capricious designator that we placed on them through society. And I don't see how, in any way, shape, or form, again, I keep having to reiterate this, how this is different from gender. And the only reason why you're saying it is different from gender is due to the intergenerational struggle that people have faced. But if a person were to enter into and identify with a different group or association of people, and they hadn't faced the past discrimination that, like, these other people had faced, I wouldn't say that they're not a European anymore. I wouldn't say that they're not, like, a member of a certain association or group.
Okay.
The same way that I
So
wouldn't say that, like, a trans person who doesn't pass that they're not trans, or a trans person who does pass that they're like not trans either.
right. So that's what we're talking about with intersectionality, right? Um, so when we talk about somebody who can pass as white, you can still look at their history, right? Their background, and see how their lineage and the implications of the people in their ancestry being a certain race, what that did to them historically has affected where they stand in society now, right? They may be able, if they pass as white, they may be part white, maybe, right? And it would be sure if they want to like say that. I wouldn't say that they're not white. If they are white, they're white, but they're also, in addition to being white, those other things, right? And those other things have affected where they have landed in society today. Regardless of the struggle that they are going through on a day-to-day basis, the their background race has still affected where they are today.
So to some extent, I think that we're looping here. And I don't mean to say that in, like, a negative sense. I think that, like,
Yeah.
this is an impasse that we're just going to not
Yeah.
resolve in any way, shape, or form.
That's understandable.
Yeah,
Auntie, I got a
think that,
question, if you
yeah,
don't
what's up,
mind.
buddy?
Yo, I feel like a lot of this may rely on like the last part where we get into turf arguments. So what would you say to a person who would accept the turf argument, saying that not only do they not believe that trans people are who they their identities, right? Trans women are women and trans men are men, but you know, do say that just
Yeah.
bite that bullet to go into you know finally accept to deny transracialism.
Yeah, so I would say that they're wrong, but they're consistent.
I got you.
I
Well,
would say that like to hold both positions simultaneously is completely inconsistent and contradictory. But to say that you believe that transgender people aren't valid and that transracial people aren't valid is consistent, but I think is repugnant.
So,
Oh,
okay,
yeah. Go
I
ahead.
think we're having a difference in like understanding here. Or do you understand like the distinction I'm making with somebody who is born with like with a lineage of a certain race and the effects of that having that race on them where they are today versus somebody who identifies as a certain gender and regardless of whether they were like born that way or not, that gender they still inherit the same discrimination that their mother went through.
Yeah, so I think that the argument that you're presenting in this case, and the reason why it draws parallels, is that it's an argument where, insofar as we have these historical um, situations where people have been discriminated against, we cannot accept transracial individuals because uh, there is not that shared identity. There is not this like shared understanding of like what led them to reach the point that they reached. But at least in as a stepwise function, before we're able to reach racial abolitionism, I'm fully accepting and willing to accept transracial individuals. And that I think is one of the biggest disagreements.
Star, I'd like to ask you a question. If you want to respond to that, you can, but I'd like to ask you a question.
Yeah, I just feel like I just feel like he's not understanding the difference I'm trying to make between transgenderism and transracialism. I think you can very easily um say that transracialism is undermining the transgender movement. And I think you can easily say that there are arguments against transracialism that aren't anti-transgender. Again, being transgender, you can still inherit the same discrimination that women through history have experienced. You, as a transgender individual, trans woman, you're still getting that discrimination. Although if we take intersectionality into this, they're getting the added part of trans discrimination.
And
With
I'm glad you say that because that's kind of what my question was. It
yeah,
was, you know, why should one's identity depend on an inherited discrimination?
I think that because again, race is something that has been uh, used and used as a category on people without their say on it, and then used throughout history to discriminate against them. I think that there's like a huge difference between somebody who is identifying as a race who hasn't had to or their ancestry hasn't landed them in the same socioeconomic position as somebody of that race versus somebody who is identifying as a different gender, and as soon as they identify as that gender and they start doing the performative parts and doing all the other parts of it, then then they experience that same gender discrimination. We can take the additional layers of discrimination, of course, and add that on top of it, but when we come down to the like fundamentally with gender, that if you are that gender, you are still inheriting the same discrimination that a cisgender woman is getting.
Auntie, you want to respond?
Yeah, so I think this argument is incorrect, but I think that there's like a basis for it, although I still disagree with it. So I'm going to provide a preface, and then I'm going to say why I think this is incorrect. There was a long-standing disagreement between, and I'm not using this as a pejorative, I'm using a descriptive term, between Marxist feminists and postmodern feminists as to whether the classification of gender was like a real thing that needed to be reified, that need to be consolidated, that need to be organized around to promote women's causes, and that these foofy postmodernists, these French intellectuals, these nonsensical people who were trying to like make this constructed category a little bit more, at least argue that this constructed category was a little bit more arbitrary, or that it was not even necessarily a good thing for us to be organizing ourselves around, because again, it concretizes this notion that gender is something that is not something that you can fluidly move away from. There was a disagreement. And I think that you can make the argument that this might be a strategic tool to achieve a certain end, which is racial liberation or the promotion of certain racial interests. I would argue, however, that in doing so, you need to accept that you are playing a very dangerous game, because again, what you're doing is you're moving away from, rather than moving towards, racial abolitionism as a concept. And I can elaborate on that if needed.
Okay. So I can't go into like these things about that was like a whole paragraph. I'm just gonna be real with you. That was a whole paragraph, and
Gotta be
all it
nuanced, you know. You gotta be
yeah,
nuanced. You can't
I'm
just say
trying to be
soundbite.
nuanced without saying a whole paragraph.
Well, if
Okay.
you don't mind, I mean, I have two. I don't know how long we have, so I kind of want to ask two more questions, one to Auntie and one to you before we dip out.
Can I respond really quick to
Yeah,
him?
go
Is that
ahead. Go ahead.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Again, I
Also,
would
just
just
to be sure, we
say
have like 25 minutes left, like we can take up. So if you guys
Cool.
might have more to
Cool.
say, we can keep going.
I would
Gotcha.
say again that gender is not something given to you by society. It's something that's given to you by your doctor and by your parents, right? They are the ones who determine that. You can't decide or choose to not suffer intergenerational discrimination. It's just not something you can choose. You can't escape it. And to act as if you can just willy-nilly just identify one way or another is a huge place of privilege.
Okay.
I'll just quickly respond to that part.
Yeah.
Your doctor and your parents are classifying you based on gender because of social constructions and social predispositions that are imposed on them through the culture and through the broader society. If you think that this is categorically different from race, or race is imposed on you by the culture and by the broader society, I don't know what to say. I think that these are exactly the same things at the end of the day. I don't think that there's like some gender essentialism or some like bioessentialism that is associated with race or gender.
Okay, so again, gender, even if we say, even if we say that like there's a societal component to gender, we still can't, when it comes to race, the identification of race, you don't get to choose to not suffer intergenerational discrimination. When you are allowing people to choose to identify as a different race, for example, Rachel Dolezal or Ollie London or any of these other people, Martina Big, they don't get to decide to they didn't, first off, they don't have the intergenerational discrimination that they faced, and people who are people of color, sure, they can get like plastic surgery to maybe get more European features, but and let's say we get some scientific advancement that allows us to get white skin, you still can't decide, you still can't choose to not suffer intergenerational discrimination.
All right. Now I think that leads me to my question for Auntie. Um, Stardust made a point earlier about the damage that transracialism does to the trans movement. Could you speak to that point? Or do you, agree or
Yeah,
disagree?
I think it only does damage insofar as we live in a reactionary society. This is a completely strategic and optics argument. This has nothing to do with the validity of whether or not transracial people are transracial people, or transgender people are transgender people.
And what and I don't know. I know I've heard sentiments from those communities when you say the exact same to like the black community or any particular community that says they're anti-trans racialism for that same reason.
Absolutely, yes.
All right.
In the
And
same way that I tell men who are defensive about trans women entering these spaces that they are being wrong, even if it's optically quote unquote bad or strategically quote unquote bad for other like political movements or decisions I care about.
got you. And to Stardust, this is my last question. Um, Anti, his I think his biggest point is the argument that pushes us that asks us to differentiate between race and gender. And could you be as clear as you can about what that differentiation is? And
Yeah.
that and is that doesn't that it's consistent in the sense where it doesn't turn it into a turf argument.
Yeah. Again, I don't think turfs can make the same argument that that when you are part of a gender that I don't think that turfs can make the same argument about transracialism and that somebody of color can't choose the can't choose to not suffer that intergenerational discrimination. They can't choose how that intergenerational discrimination based on their race has landed them in the spot in society where they are today. Right? We don't see that type of argument. At least I've never seen that argument from a turf. You can't escape what history has done to your ancestors. However, when it comes to being a woman, when you identify as a woman and you're living life as a woman, you inherit the same discrimination that your sisters get, right? Regardless, if we're just looking at gender, regardless of of anything prior to that generation, you in this generation are still getting that discrimination, and your place in society has not been determined by necessarily like today where you landed today has not necessarily been determined by intergenerational history and trauma and things like that.
I have a question, also for you, Stardust. How could you go more into how you're defining being how you're saying that you can be defined by your oppressors versus parents and doctors, right? Because you're saying we have these two categories. So the oppressors, whatever ethnic majority or that's in charge, and then like the doctors and the parents, you said also define the person when they were born.
Right, sure. So, again, the way that society identifies you, they look at you, and you don't get a choice really in how they see you based on how you look, right? As far as like race goes, except maybe recently when we talk about like plastic surgery and things like that. Um, uh, and you can't really, I mean, look, I put bleaching skin on and not skin, but I put bleaching cream on in high school. Didn't do anything. It maybe changed my skin tone a little bit, but I'm never gonna look white, right? And there's no way to get anywhere close to that. Um, uh, but um, the I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question one more time so I can kind of get back on it?
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
Yeah.
So we were putting two categories out there, right? Oppressors, right, defining you, and then parents and doctors defining you. And so I wanted to know, like, to go deeper into that. And I guess a
Mhm.
follow-up question would be that for a trans person, if they become cis, like, sorry, if they become cis after they go through surgery, right? So like a doctor has defined them as a different sex. So could you go into that?
Um, okay.
Can
So
I make the argument?
You can
Because I
both. You can both respond. Oh yeah, I want you to both talk about
yeah. So again, um, your your parents and your doctor may give you the gender in the hospital when you're born, right? They look at your genitals and then they say that you're this sex, and then after that they start treating you based on the gender roles associated with that, right? But you still can you still, if you choose to, let's say if you were born male biologically and you choose to transition to being a woman, you still inherit the gender discrimination that is associated with being that woman, right? When you start living and going through society as a woman. Um, when you are born as a certain race, society imposes that upon you. Your parents don't even get really a choice in that. You are just what you are, right? Um, and society, you don't get to choose the intergenerational, again, discrimination that your family may have gone through, the trauma that they may have gone through, the history that they may have gone through that has landed you at the place in society where you are today.
Yeah, so I'll just respond briefly.
Yeah. Oh, did you want to
There's two
answer the
things.
question for your own first and then respond?
Well, I was gonna say well, I mean, I was gonna say something about Prime's question because I agree with a lot of the thrust of it. So, uh, we are not born black. We are not born white. We are not born Asian. We are not born like Latin American. We are born babies, and then society imposes categories on us in the same way through what we consider to be oppression, or through, in the case of gender, perhaps oppression, perhaps like this filtration process, this social process that we use to determine and categorize people. So, again, at the end of the day, right, the goal should be to remove these arbitrary and capricious labels, but in the transitionary process, it should be totally fine for us to break free of these labels that society is imposing on us, that we did not choose in any capacity, shape, or form. If I want to be called X, right, then I should be able to be called X. You do not get to define what I self-identify as. You do not get to define what performative aspects I want to engage in to better align myself with a certain group so that I'm better able to self-actualize. The other part of this that I'm a little troubled by is that, like, you can't escape your history. You're not allowed to say, you know what? I say to you, person who's labeling me this way, I don't care about my past history. I want to move away from this group for whatever reason that I've determined. And if people accept that, then that's fine. That's totally fine. The reason why we find this to be so problematic is because of the Rachel Dolezal. Because people think, for one reason or another, this is problematic because it's a quote unquote white person going into the black community. We do not give a shit as a society when it is a person who is typically white passing, quote unquote, who is, say, Latin American, or is a different type of white who wasn't considered white in the past by history. We're talking about historical oppression and ethnic solidarity. And we're saying to them, or at least we're consistent, we should say to them, if we want to like oppose transracialism, no, fuck you, you're still considered X. The way that you were considered in the 1700s, the way you were considered in the 1600s. And I just reject that. I reject that wholesale.
Okay, so again, I think my goal is different. I don't want to eliminate races. I want to eliminate racism, right? And then secondly, I would say, um, just because you partake um, in a culture doesn't mean you have to identify with a certain race. You can look at Black communities and how they've been treated for the past 200 years, they can't self-identify out of that. And because of that, I think it's disrespectful to allow somebody to self-identify into that.
So Stardust, you don't have to, but you can. That's part of the argument. You don't have to identify as X. There are people, say within gender spaces, right?
Mhm.
They engage in effeminate activity, right? They engage in the performance. They don't call themselves trans women. But trans women can be trans women. They exist. In the same
Right.
way, you don't have to identify as a member of a particular group or
But
community
again,
or identify in a certain
there's a
way, but
huge
you have the
difference
option
here.
to do so.
There's a huge difference. You're not seeming to understand the difference. When you identify as a woman and you live life as a woman, you still inherit the same discrimination that all other women get. When you identify as a white person, maybe identifying as a black person, you don't inherit that 200 years of discrimination that the black community has had to deal with.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the disagreement. I think that you can move past historical prejudices and you can separate yourself from the historical oppression that has been cast on you by your oppressor group. And simultaneously, there have been instances throughout history where people have been oppressed in these ways and they've assimilated into, say, the white community. We would consider Polish people to be white in the United States using an Americentric like view of things. We wouldn't call them like the things that people in the UK call them because they don't consider themselves the same.
If you can identify as like if a white person can identify as black, um, like when does it become acceptable for them like to do blackface then?
When does it become unacceptable for them to do
When does it become
blackface?
acceptable for them to do blackface? Is it acceptable for them to do blackface if they identify as black?
Wait. So
If a white person identifies as black and they
so do
don't
you?
have do
Okay. So
do they can
here's
they do
the problem.
blackface?
Here's the problem, right?
Can
Me
they?
personally, right? No,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like bite some bullet here. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I think that if you are just like painting your face black, absent minstrelsy, that's fine. If you are engaged in minstrelsy, it doesn't matter what quote unquote racial group you identify with, it's still problematic.
Okay, so Ollie London wanting to make his penis smaller is offensive, right?
It's
Just because he's
problematic.
Korean. Yeah.
Wait, why do you think it's problematic? You think it's problematic because it's a caricature?
Yes.
Okay. You think that by engaging in this performance is perpetuating a caricature?
Yes.
Okay. Why
He's
does
making his
this
penis smaller, dude. Because he's Korean. Because he's claiming he's Korean.
okay?
I don't see if
It
we're
might be
allowing
it
him
might
to
be
do
like
that, identify as
it might
Korean,
be a
and then
okay, it might be a
make his penis smaller.
stop. It might be a problematic way of him going about it as defined by like our sensibilities, right? Because we think that like there are some aspects of the caricature that are problematic outside
Okay,
of
so
the
it's
fact
okay then. It's
that
okay
like
for him to
they
reduce his
wait,
penis size.
but I'm gonna say this again. If you think that caricature arguments are valid, why are you not ascribing this to trans women or trans men?
Because
If the performance is enhancing a caricature, then you would oppose trans men engaging in quote unquote a caricature of what it means
what
to be
is
a
a
man,
caricature?
or
What is a
trans women a quote
caricature?
unquote
What is a
caricature of being a
caricature of
woman.
what? That
Hold on.
being a man or being a woman can be so many things. You can be a masculine woman. You can be a
Black
feminine
can be
man.
so many things. Being white can be so many things. What are you talking
Right.
about?
It can be. But the fact that they're playing into the stereotype of I'm Asian, I need to have a smaller penis is incredibly offensive. Hey, also by the way, Prime, do you think you can
Yo,
opt out of
you
the
dressing up in like
oppression, the
drag queen, that's
historical
incredibly
oppression
offensive
that
today.
you faced? I have a question for Prime. Prime, can you opt out of that? If you wanted to identify as white tomorrow, Prime, do you think that you can opt out of the oppression that you faced?
FIF, plead the fifth.
I doubt it. I doubt that would go over well. No.
Being pretty and having boobs is not a caricature of a woman. Okay.
Wait.
It's
Let
just
me
being a
wait.
woman.
Wait. Hold on. Let me ask this.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely.
Do we say the same thing about like
Well,
women in
everybody gets
drag?
old and everybody gets
that
ugly
don't
after a while, so nobody stays pretty
All right.
forever. If you become if you
All right, hold on,
pretty,
guys.
if
Nobody
you're
can hear
pretty
you.
and you
Go.
have
this argument
boobs,
all the
if
fucking
you're
time.
pretty and you
Hey.
have boobs and you get old, your
Dressing
boobs
and
are gonna
dragging is
sag
important.
because gravity is there. It doesn't
Like a
matter.
second-
Everybody gets
Hold
old and
on,
ugly.
guys. All right, guys. Nobody, no, we can hear. All right, I I have a real quick question. I mean, would you see men dressing up in drag as problematic as creating a caricature of women?
No. No.
I mean, don't you? I mean, all right, well, and that, I think that's what
She's
Auntie is
doing something
highlighting
very
here.
offensive, right? Like doing something like, I don't know,
What is it
like
offensive?
throwing bloody tampons at people, then yeah, I'd be like, this guy's a fucking nutcase. But if he's
So
just dressing how he wants to, I have no problem with that. Just like if there's a white guy who's wearing like clothes that are typically not associated with white guys, then I'm not going to be offended by that. The dude's just appreciating some culture. Let's say that Toyolo, what race are you, Toyolo? If you don't mind me asking.
oh, that's sticky.
Yeah, what are your wait.
What is
Toilet,
your
really quick.
preferred race,
What are the
Toyolo?
chromosomes? What are the chromosomes,
What's your
Toilet, that
preferred
is
race?
defined
How do you
for
like to
racial character?
identify,
I
Toyolo?
don't know.
Please.
I don't know what chromosomes I have or how many.
The fact
I
that she
get,
asked that
whatever.
question is so
But
funny.
I, as a proud black man who looks very white, feel very
Uh-huh.
offended by that question.
Okay.
So
Okay.
my family comes from Africa and Italy and wherever else brown people are from, and I just don't get outside very much.
Okay. So you're like a
I'm
nice, like
hurting.
a mix of group of people.
What you call me?
What?
Call me what?
No,
Like
I
a
mean,
nice,
but
like,
to bring it back on track, I think the idea is it seems like an
if I
inconsistency.
start doing whiteface tomorrow, who's gonna have a problem with it? Raise your hand.
Every
Stardust, let me ask
white
you
people are
this.
gonna have
Is
a
it not
problem with
wrong
it.
if a
Wait,
black person also does blackface? Like that seems kind of
But you
fucky,
think I'd be
right? Like,
opposed to like if you were doing it in a racist way, I'd be opposed to it. What do you mean?
Yeah,
Is
but
there a
what if I
non-racist
identify
way
as
to do
white,
blackface?
Nancy?
Is there a
What if I
non-racist way?
identify as white tomorrow and I decide I'm gonna put on my fucking white face makeup, okay? And I'm gonna go and say to people, "You're not gonna replace
Yeah,
me.
it would be the
Hey,
same-
I'm
again, it would be
white,
the same
and you're
thing.
not gonna replace
And
me."
by itself, it's not problematic. It just depends on why you're doing it.
Yeah, I think Kayes had a great question. I think Auntie, if you want to take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there
Oh,
any?
sorry. What was the question?
No problem. Is there a non-racist way to do blackface?
Is there a non-racist way to put black on your face? Yes.
Not black on the face.
Do
To do blackface.
Or
You
you
can
mean
you
okay,
can
when
you can
mean
have
the-
like a
when-
baseball
yeah,
people like.
so again, I have to put like a preface on this. When you say blackface, do you mean minstrelsy or do you mean putting black on your face? Is there a non-racist way to do that?
Putting
Is that the
black
question?
on your face to look like a black person.
Yeah.
To look like a black person? Not inherently racist, no.
He says so. There is a way to do it, right?
Tropic Thunder. I don't think he was racist when he was doing it.
But he was
I don't think
making
he
a
was inherently
mockery
racist
out of
when he was doing
himself,
it.
right?
What?
He was making a mockery out of himself, right?
He was making a mockery out of people who were engaged in like incredibly like racist attitudes. Sure.
Mhm. So that's
You wanna
not
do-
net.
you want-
The only reason why that's not problematic. Wait a minute. The only reason
Wait.
why that's not problematic is because he was making a mockery of himself and people who do the same thing as him.
No. Like you can okay, so let's take a step back, right? So we have two
Okay.
we have two instances, right? We have two instances. No, we have two instances. So we have one instance where this person is like dressed up a certain way because you said it's not. Is there an instance where a person can wear blackface and it's not inherently problematic? And I provided the example of an instance where it's not inherently problematic. So irrespective of whether or not he did it for that reason, doesn't pertain to the question. So if you want to answer to that question, yeah, I think you should be able to dress up as like characters of
Okay.
shows.
Let me rephrase the question then.
Assuming that you're paying homage or trying to like engage in the performance and
if
it's not
you-
like attempting to be racist or problematic, sure, why not?
Okay, so if a person who is born white, right,
Yep.
and identifies as a black, decides to wear a baseball cap backwards and wear baggy pants, and decides to put on blackface and wear like a prosthetic nose that looks a little bit wider, is that he identifies as black.
Wait,
Do you think that that's problematic?
Wait, do you think a woman who wears short dresses, gets plastic surgery, and like has big boobs, who was not born a woman, who transitioned into becoming a woman, right? According to our like classifications of gender, or men, by the way, trans men exist as well, who fulfill these like concepts, these associations that have been pushed on them by society. Your problem is the associations. It's not with the people, right? The problem that you have is with the fact that like the oppressor group or the broader society has imposed these nonsensical, arbitrary, capricious categories on them based off of characteristics that are meaningless and completely arbitrary.
I think the difference is, when as women generally, everybody gets old, everybody's boobs start sagging, and everybody gets fucking ugly. Okay, everybody gets ugly as fuck. Have you ever seen a dead person? They're so fucking ugly, dude. Sorry, bad joke, but yeah, I think that there's a difference there. I'm not offended at somebody who looks like, who looks good. I'm not offended at that. I am offended though by a guy playing a character of a person of color. I think there's a problem there. I think you can appreciate and partake in that culture and do a lot of things associated with that culture without having to identify as the culture and then dress up and do blackface. So
Yeah, again, I'll just say that because we have this like fundamental disagreement based off of like what social categories are meaningful and which social categories aren't meaningful. I would say that in the broader scope of things, if you were to make this argument, if you think that like, oh, we can just like appreciate aspects of their culture without necessarily having to like call ourselves X, first of all, you don't need to engage in a performance, right, to self-identify. You don't. And secondly, if your concern is with the performativity component and them playing a caricature, I don't know, and this is for the judges and for people who are in the audience and whomever to decide why gender is this special social category that is immutable and static and fixed, and race is not.
what is female culture?
There's no such thing. And there's no such thing, quite frankly, at the end of the day, as black culture. Because inevitably, what we should transition into is to realize that there are people with these cluster of characteristics that we've imposed on them. And then inevitably, what we should do is we should pop that like a fucking atom bomb. So what are components of black culture to you? What makes a black person to you?
I would ask Free and I would ask Prime. Is there such thing as black culture?
That's a cop out.
I mean,
And actually, and
Toyolo
as
as a
well.
black man, that really invalidated me.
no, I
really-
mean,
Sorry,
I feel
Andy.
what you're saying, but like, I mean, I would, instead of getting me in, because I don't want my opinions involved in the debate at all, right? Like, I just ask you like about your culture. I'm assuming you have a culture that you identify with that you could express, and then to use that as your example. So instead of Auntie asking you about black culture, what about your culture? What defines your culture?
Sure. Yeah, what defines my culture? There are certain like cultural practices that have been picked up from my country of origin and practiced in America. So certain things like the cuisine, right, that we have, right, the music we listen to, the practices like taking your shoes off in the house, right? Um, yeah, these are all things like the spices that you use, right? These are all aspects that you've carried on with you from your parents and from your lineage, right?
Right. So let me ask you a question from there.
Mhm.
Right. I'm going to tell you a little about my culture, then ask you a question about that. Right. All right.
Mhm.
So I identify as black. We like chicken and watermelon and grape juice and all the little memes and stuff. I like all of that. Right. I'm blacker than black. I'm blackity blackity black. Right. My name's
Okay.
Tyrone Jackson. I live on Martin Luther King Drive. Right. All
Uh-huh.
of that good stuff. Right. I've never tasted the spices that you've eaten, but one day I decide to. Right. I just pick
Mhm.
up every spice, every cultural tradition. I start taking my shoes off, right? I start singing the songs. Am I a part of your? Am I then your culture?
You're partaking in it, sure, but are you like the race? I don't think so, right? You
You
can
can never
be
become it. You can never ever
well,
identify as an Indian.
yeah, I mean, just like I can never identify as being like white, or I can never identify as being black, right?
And so, in that same respect, would you say the same thing again for for gender here, right? That there's at some point, because
No, again,
that's yeah.
because we're separating gender from race, right? And again, there's no inherent like female culture, right? There's like being a woman, identifying as a woman and going through life as a woman, you still inherit the same gender discrimination as a cisgender woman, right? With
Yeah,
obviously the added intersectionality of, being trans, but
well then,
So
because
so
yeah, go ahead, go ahead. You
earlier
do it.
on,
Go
I
ahead.
have to say something. When I said there's no such thing as black culture, that was a little bit of a cop out, and that's really the answer is that black culture is such a fucking massive spectrum all over
Mhm.
the place that it's completely uncategorical. Like you can't categorize it.
Mhm.
My perspective on what black culture is, with my dad being Somali, is substantially different than a black American's experience, is substantially different than a South African's experience, is substantially different than somebody who was raised in fucking Japan who's black,
Mhm.
their definition of what black culture means. So
Mhm.
the reason why I'm saying that there's no such thing as black culture isn't that there are not some like groupings there. It's that the spectrum is so wide that if you identify a characteristic, I'm going to ask you how this is black culture. So if I say like I don't eat chicken and fucking watermelon, right?
Yeah.
Because that's right. If I don't drink fucking like grape soda, if I don't like do all these things, am I still fucking black? And the answer is maybe, maybe not. And it's
Well, I
up
mean,
to me to
again,
decide.
you've got again, right, family history and things like that, right?
Fuck my family history. I don't care. Like that's just a
Okay.
label that people describe
Right.
like
But if you go
to me.
far back enough, like we can find interlaps, sure. But like just because something's hard to identify doesn't mean you can't, right?
And to that point, Auntie, let me ask you a question. Right, if, huh, I mean, with all those things, if you're not accepted by that group or by society, I mean, is that identification still valid?
Don't care.
Yeah.
Don't care. Everybody can say you're not X, and I'm going to say I am X, and I'm going to keep saying it from the rooftops because that's how I self-identify. In the same way that if the whole world, the whole entire world, barring the one trans woman or trans man or non-binary individual, said you're not X, I hope to God that they're able to overcome that fucking social pressure and just say, hey, I am X. Fuck all of you.
All right. So I know we went over time now. So,
Can I just say one last, it's like one sentence.
oh
I
yeah,
get
yeah.
that I get that you don't care, Auntie, but society still cares, right? And because society still cares, it still affects people. And it still creates circumstances that they can't opt out of.
Well, like I said, with that, I think it's time for us hit our closing arguments. I think who went first? Andy went first, so Stardust, you can go. You can.
Okay, sure. Um, so I guess what I would say is, I'd say that I think the blackface argument really worked really well. I just ask you, uh, do you want me to show up in blackface tomorrow? Uh, I'm just asking. I don't think I would like to show up in blackface. Please don't make me, okay? But I mean, I think just because you can appreciate a culture and identify with it in some sort of way, like, and pay homage to it, right? Doesn't mean that you have to adopt another race. I think this is like an extreme form of like policing cultural appropriation, right? If we didn't get on this whole, oh no, you can't culturally appropriate anything, maybe we wouldn't be having this this argument, right? I think cultural appropriation's based. Okay? I think you should be able to take things from different cultures and you should be able to use them in your life, right? I mean, the Beatles used like Indian instruments, that made some banger sounds. I thought that was baller as fuck. I think society uses race to either discriminate or to identify discrimination, right? And you've got this history of discrimination, um, and you can't opt into that. You can't opt into that intergenerational discrimination. You can't opt out of it. If you're born in a situation because of what your ancestors have suffered, you cannot choose to not be born into that situation. However, if you are a woman, you are inheriting, because you walk through life as a woman, you are inheriting those prejudices and that struggle and some of the benefits of being a woman as well. Just like if you walk through life being a man, transgender or cis, you are inheriting still the benefits and the downsides of being a man. Um, there's there's a very to me, I see a huge difference in being transracial and being transgender. And I think we're opening a door to one, invalidate the original transracial experience, right? Mixed people and people adopted into families that are different from their race, right? And then also we're allowing this transracial to this transracialism to take away from the transgender struggle. I don't think we need to be tying these together. It makes no sense to. I think that transracialism has so many opportunities for abuse, even, right? We don't you guys know about pretendism, right? What white people pretending that they have some part of Native American in them to take advantage of I see you raising your eyebrows, Prime. um to take advantage of what they can from that, right? Um, we don't accept it when we see people who steal valor from others, right? Like people who claim they were part of the military when they weren't, right? That would be completely unacceptable to us. So I just don't see how this is. I don't. I think it's honestly insulting to transgender people to even associate these two things together.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. We are tallying the votes.
Did
So.
we give Auntie his moment?
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
Andy
I
has
apologize.
it.
Go ahead,
Right,
please.
right, brother.
I'm
Come on.
a black erasure. That's all we do here.
Right.
So I'll say two, maybe three things. By the way, Stardust, it's very nice for you to also speak in paragraphs so you can pack in all that nuance.
No, I had to make up for it, since
You got to make up for it earlier, right?
yeah.
Y'all motherfuckers
So
speaking
one is
theses.
that the argument that we operate under a paradigm at the moment, and this thing that I'm doing is just some bullshit idealism, and we live under the society that we live under, and press currently, and oh, Auntie, why are you being such a cuck? You know, why do you still say that transracialism should be something that we should validate or accept? This is just a status quo argument. This argument could be made for most instances of social progress in history when it wasn't popular. So while you might think strategically or optically that this is harmful, I'm going to say that fuck it, I'm not going to invalidate an entire class of people because of political or strategic purposes. Now, maybe that's a disagreement on how we both do politics, but I'm going to argue for the ideal. I'm going to argue for what we should strive for. The other thing is, I cannot believe, actually, I can believe, but I also can't believe, because Stardust, you're a good person, that you made the pretendism argument. Especially when you made the pretendism argument when it applies to scholarships and other advantages that people are able to engage in if they were to pretend as if they were quote unquote Native American or pretend as if they were quote unquote Black. While there might be some people who engage in, I guess, like bad faith reasons for doing what they're doing to achieve material advantages in life, the pretendism argument as it stands right now is being made against transgender athletes in sports, saying that they are pretending to be women so that they are able to achieve scholarships. They are pretending to be women so they can get scholarships so that they're able to like displace cis women. So I don't think that the pretendism argument is generally valid in the case of transracial individuals. I don't think the pretendism argument is valid with respect to transgender individuals. I think that there has never at any point in time been a sufficient argument as to why race and gender are not social constructions that are completely meaningless and arbitrary to the greatest degree that we can. And I also think that, again, most of the arguments that have been presented here, as much as Stardust doesn't want them to agree with them, they are turf arguments. The reason why she doesn't want to go the turf route is because she's a good person, right? And she's not anti-trans when it comes to gender, but I wish that she became pro-trans when it came to race. Yeah.
Just letting you know, if Auntie wins this, I'm identifying as Black tomorrow, and I'm going to be doing blackface.
Yeah, you'll just be an interesting mixed guy like me.
Okay.
Sorry.
So the judges have voted. It's in, and before I'll reveal what it is, I want to thank all of our competitors, like every single one of them, for coming through. I thought we had a really good time. We had a bit of a rough start tonight, but we will get better in the future, right? This is our first time doing this, and maybe we'll do more, like after we run through this full tournament. Maybe we'll do more in the future. It depends. We'll see. But yeah, I do want to thank the people who came in. They came to play, right? Especially you two. I think you guys did a fantastic job. Okay, so I because it's a split decision, I'm gonna do it one at a time. We're gonna each judge. Okay. All right. From one judge, I'll go antidepressant. From the next judge, Logan, Stardust. The next judge, Jay, antidepressant. From Prime, Stardust. And finally, Toyola over there, antidepressant. So,
Anti with a sneak dub. Let's go.
we crown Auntie the winner. But again, you did a fantastic job. So you should.
Well, I hope you look forward to tomorrow, Prime.
Oh boy, I will reach out. Before you guys
Big
go.
thanks though.
Yeah,
big thanks, Stardust. Mega
Yeah, thank
big
you.
thanks. I
Thank
know
you for
you didn't
having
want
me.
to. I know you didn't want to buckle down and say, Jim Crow was effective, but massive thank you in filling those shoes.
Just for everybody's own like edification and like learning about this. So Stardust as a champion, she took this last minute. My
Yeah.
prior opponent was going to argue that black people were better under Jim Crow in the Jim Crow era than they were today. And he was a big old pussy and backed out.
That sounds
she took it.
really like a fun argument.
Big old dripping pussy. But
Big
I'm
old
actually
pussy.
I'm
Big
actually
old
impressed with
pussy.
you, Stardust. I never heard you debate before, but I think you did a great job. Auntie as well, you also did a great job. I was
Yeah.
really impressed by this debate. It was really
Thank
interesting.
you.
Yeah.
Can we have a debate about blackface next time?
Yeah, I'll do it in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to
I'm
do like a whole debate about blackface, just about that. Well, maybe not just blackface, but like
Do you want to do
faces
like all
in
the
general.
faces and like
All
I'll
the
put 50
faces.
bucks on it
Yeah,
and
all the
I'll say I
faces.
should be allowed to do it? You
All
could
the
pick a
colors of the
face
rainbow
of
color.
any race. Yeah. I'll get a makeup crew together. I'll fly you out.
I actually don't have like a strong opinion either way on the. I only started really reading on it, the transracialism stuff, like yesterday, because that's when we decided.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I guess I'll take the no position. But yeah, I don't
It
know.
was very
All of
hard. It was really hard to
It's a
judge.
very
Yeah.
hard
Very
position
hard.
to be in, to say no. It's almost like you knew that I would have to be finding and non-turf arguments, which was very hard. And I still think I succeeded in that. So, I mean, that's
So
all.
yeah, I want to be very clear. Like, looking into, we have a group DM for the judges, and they were like torn the entire debate between you two. So like, I really do mean it. It was close. People, yeah. So
I didn't want Auntie to win. He was real mean to me before this happened. I was gonna vote against him on principle.
Yeah, I was a huge asshole. You know why?
I
Because
was
he was
supposed
totally
to be meaner,
Offered to
actually.
buy him lunch, and he called me a bitch.
Yeah, I was
And I
supposed to be meaner to Auntie, honestly. I was going to be meaner, but I just didn't get a chance. I got too caught up on the blackface part. So,
So
Yeah, she was just like, she's really waiting to like call me a slur, but she couldn't figure out what race I was identifying.
we have a panel about that coming up. It's creative methods and applying practices.
Stardust. One of the judges, I mean, one of the judges didn't vote for you. Had a question. So if you want, you can answer this or not. You can decide which one to do. They asked me, can you ask Stardust, can a non-passing trans woman be a woman, since presumably they wouldn't inherit societal sexism against women?
I mean, they would still be well, look, what does non-passing mean? Because there are tons of women that look very masculine. I mean, I get told like, I don't know, but like I've seen other women who look very masculine. I've seen women with beards who are biological women. What does that mean, right? I still think that you inherit some sort of female discrimination, even if maybe you're not passing, right? People know what you're trying to be, right? Or not trying to be. People know what you're in the process of going towards, right? I'm sorry, the language around this is so tricky, but you know the intention. You know the intention, right? So the discrimination, it's now you're not only getting the discrimination of being a woman, you're getting the discrimination of being trans.
So I guess in the judge clarified, it's a non-passing society thinks they're a man and treats them like a man. So for instance, there was yesterday, we had an individual who popped on the panel. We had a whole trans thing actually yesterday. And individual popped on the panel and they identified as a woman, but like it seemed seemingly at the very, very, very beginning of the transition. And so like they had a beard, if you had seen them on the street, you would have identified them as a man. If that person still believes, feels that they are a trans woman, right? If they believe, you know what I mean. They're a trans woman. Then have they all? Basically, it's like, do you inherit that the moment you make the jump, right? Even if you haven't.
We just need to be accepting of people who are like unattractive, and we need to validate their
true,
gender experience. Like
honestly.
they're ugly women and they're ugly men, and you just need to like be like, yeah, that's a woman.
Yeah, I have a straight up
Just not a very
mustache.
pretty one.
Yeah.
even if no, but the problem is that I guess the point the judge is trying to make, that's not the point they're going for, is that you don't know, right? Like I would have a conversation with this person, and so that's how I knew. Otherwise, I would not have known. You wouldn't have known.
I think there's still going to be some, maybe just because other people can't tell what the intention is yet, that doesn't mean that you feeling and being a woman inside doesn't mean that there isn't some inherent like discrimination you're still going to witness as a woman, even if you don't look like you look at the media and see how people portray women, right? See how women are portrayed as like either bimbos and whores or prude frigid bitches, right? You still will see that and feel that. It doesn't matter if you like how you look, right?
It doesn't matter how you look, but if society doesn't know that you're a woman
But
yet,
you still feel that. You still feel that seeing how society is treating that woman in media, right?
oh, I see.
Yeah, wouldn't you say the same thing about black people? I mean, they would see the oppression happening to us on TV or in the media and all these things. These things aren't happening in a vacuum, right?
Is it a question for me or for Prime?
Oh,
It's for you. For you. Start
Oh
off.
yeah, I mean yeah, you would see that, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I agree. That led to a lot of problematic things. Kind of thinking like BET. It's been detrimental to the black community.
Oh man, that's another fight. You should come on All Black Everything, and we could have a fight about BET. That might actually be really fun.
He won't even have the Ray J
If I
debate.
identify as black, can
I'll
I be on
fight
All
you on
Black
BET. I'll
Everything,
fight you on
Prime?
I think you.
Can you have
Free-
me on All Black Everything?
I think I would.
Free
absolutely.
and Anti won't even take the Ray J debate. Both of them are cowards.
I don't even know what the Ray J debate
I don't want to
is.
have to slander my boy Ray J. Don't make
What's
me
the
do
Ray
this.
J debate? Sorry, what's the
Ray
Ray J
J
debate?
is I subscribe to the Vince Staples belief that Ray J is at the center of all things that we care about, especially black culture and the community of entertainment. Ray J has been getting money since he was a baby on Moesha. Ray J has had a hand in goddamn near everything that we care about. Ray J is the greatest of all time. I will put together a debate about that if anybody is not a coward.
I'm fucking triggered. I'll
Wait,
do it.
great idea. Okay, next All Black Everything, I think Auntie should join and say that there's no such thing as black culture. I think that would be great.
No, you should just have a bunch of people who look like
There's
me.
uniform black culture that we can identify. Yes.
Okay. Well, this has been weird. So anyway, I want to give these two a chance to like outro and promo themselves, either promo yourselves or maybe another channel, whatever you like to do. Right? You got social media. You should throw in my Twitch chat so we can find you. Yeah. So we'll start with Auntie.
I'll show in your chat.
That's it.
Right.
I suppose so.
Okay. Yeah. Antidepressants. Thank you so much. Everyone, check out this Twitch channel. Antidepressants. Twitch. Who? I mean, he doesn't know how to market himself. He can't even like bring himself to say the fucking words. But yeah, check out his Twitch channel. Next we have Stardust, who does know how to market herself. Stardust. Show them how it's done.
Hi, I'm Stardust. I will never do blackface. However, I have thought many times in my career that I would love to do whiteface. Specifically, I would love to do whiteface and show up at a white supremacist rally and start yelling the things that they yell and see if they do anything. I think that would be hilarious. I'm waiting for my moment. Secondly, this vote was clearly rigged. I demand a recount, and I refuse to accept the results of this. My next debate against whoever my next opponent is better be about doing all sorts of faces. You know what? Justin Trudeau, if he wants to do brown face, that's fine. I think that dude loves I think he loves his costumes, and if he wants to do that, I think he's so innocent. He just loves his costumes so much. Anyways, if you would like to follow me and hear me talk about things that are probably going to get me in trouble in 6 months, that somebody's going to clip and give and show to me in 6 months, then I'm going to stumble over my words over. Please check me out. I'm Stardust on Twitch. It's spelled exactly how it sounds. Thank you.
Stardust is great, in case you didn't know. She's a lot of fun. Okay.
Thank you, Mega Mind. Again.
She gave like a whole thing shilling for herself. I got to shill for myself a little bit, other than just
okay, everybody, this is Mega Mind. I'm just kidding. Sorry.
So first of all, that's very racist. Okay, we Somalis are very proud of our foreheads. Secondly, My name is Antidepressants, oftentimes referred to as Anti. As I noted during the start of this conversation, I have a channel. It's not very active at the moment, but I hope to make it in the future. The goal is to fill in the sort of foundational void that is left at the moment, because a lot of people in the Twitch community don't have a background in economics or political economy, and I'm hoping to rectify that. I'm also in the process of building like a series of free courses for individuals who are interested in microeconomics, macroeconomics, radical political economy, or liberal political economies. That I'm also a reg in the Destiny Discord server, and if you would all like to come in there, it'd be nice, and I'll be sure to be very nice to you while you're participating in that server.
Okay.
Also, I just want to say that all judges hate women and hate brown people, okay? So that's what happened here tonight.
Even the ones who voted for you.
Yes.
You may want to ask some people about me before you go through that line of dialogue.
So, okay. Well, hey, and everyone, if you've been enjoying this content, right? If you like what we are doing here, and we're doing a lot of it, we're 7 days a week. Stardust's not the only one who can stream 7 days a week. Apparently, I can too. So we're doing 7 days a week, adding this on to everything else that we do. Follow the channel. Follow this channel. Come back. Oh, we're going to continue on with this, right? So for the next few weeks, we're going to be whittling people down until we have a big finale, and we give someone a prize, which is going to be great. So stick around for that, come back for that, and also support this channel by subbing to the channel, gifting bits, gifting subs, anything you can do, or using a PayPal button below. All of that, it helps out a ton. And how, I mean, the panel, the tournament's fully paid for, but it helps me come back and continue providing this content for you. So if you appreciate all this, how about this channel, right? How about this lonely white man fulfill his dreams. So thank you.
It's hard out there.
I just want to let America know he accepted being a white man just now. I just want to let America know Toyola accepted his white man status. I just want
Not at all. I didn't. Part of me did. Part of me did. Like one small part on my grandma's side, like a long time ago, did.
Yo, we can do whiteface tomorrow together. It will be great.
I think Stardust and I should go to like a Trump rally with like one stripe of every race painted on our face, just horizontally.
No, they would just think that we're like doing some weird political statement. They wouldn't even think we're doing like whiteface or brown.
We should just scream "Little Timmy, little Timmy, little Timmy" until the cows come
No,
home.
the line that you have to scream is "You will not replace us." That's the line, right?
Ooh, yeah. There's
Listen,
probably like 14 other ones that work really well there too.
All that kind of stuff. Like, wait, sorry, are you in like Virginia or no? Mind if I like say
I'm in
that?
the DC area. DC
Yeah,
area.
same.
Meaning DC.
So like the Beltway has been clogged up by like the Freedom Convoy a little bit, and then like it tapered off for a while. But yeah, I prefer not to attend one of those rallies. Pure that the
you don't want to go
you
do
just come as
whiteface?
like a witness. Like you can just be a witness. You can hold the camera as I get beat up or something for doing
You could do like Filipino face and hide.
Oh boy, what?
but
Retro
have,
God,
like, a
thank you for the
moral
551 gift subs. That's a lot of time. Anyone else? Please help
Sorry,
out the
I'm gonna just like
community.
videotape you and like watch you get beat up. I think
Why
that'd
not?
be bad.
I think that would be hilarious.
All right, guys.
Okay, this is weird. It's like
I want to plug.
Okay. Oh, yes, please go ahead. Take your time and plug.
If you guys like this, let me know. My name's Toyolo. It's Toyolo _ on Twitter and Toyolo11777 on Twitch.com or Twitch.tv. Sorry. I like making things happen. I like doing cool shit. If you want to see more cool shit and you want to see more things happen, let's do it.
Okay, so Toyola has a ridiculous fucking name, right? Didn't really think this through. So what he's going to do, he's going to put his link in chat so we can actually find him. Not have to memorize how many fucking sevens there are in his goddamn name.
Do you know how many people took Toyolo before me? Like, it's ridiculous.
Really? That's actually surprising.
11,777
okay,
people.
all right. Put your link in chat so we can find you. Retro guys, seriously, thank you for the 5 hot tier and gift subs. Anyone else? Support this community. If you like what we're doing.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm gonna throw my thing out. Yeah, Phenom Free on Twitter, Phenom_free. And we things people don't say on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're like I said, Spotify, Apple, Anchor FM will get you to all of that. Like I said, we're black as fuck. And it's cool as hell. So listen to it. It's really good.
Well, there you go. Okay, so yeah, thank you for helping us out, and I'm sure you put the links in chat.
Yes, sir.
Here, you know what? Okay, right. So Stardust doesn't think that I'm racist, right? So that
She'll just think you hate
Just
women.
sexist. Just sexist.
Yeah.
That's all.
just a sexist.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to Stardust. Seriously, she was a great sport. We are going to give her a consolation prize, right? We are going to send her this raid, all right, off the
Wow,
Stardust.
thank you.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
You're a good one. Everyone, please come back next week and tomorrow. We'll have the Reverie Roundtable. It'll be great. A lot of fun. Stardust might be there, right? If she can forgive me. So...
You haven't even invited me yet. What the
I
hell?
haven't invited you yet. Yes, because
Women lying.
Not lying.
But
I'm gonna hop off.
Unbelievable.
yeah,
Unbelievable.
come back tomorrow.
Much
We
for
got
everything.
more content for you, and thanks to the people who support this community and it's helping keeping us up and running. All right.